The story begins in a dark and devastating place dominated by shadows and abysses. Soon we see that a young man appears to be gravely wounded in his chest. With a slight smile on his face, the brave hero seems to fight for his life. But we soon realize that this smile belongs to an audacious young man. Even with his face marked by countless wounds, he decides to face whatever is hurting him. In the midst of that destruction, an unnameable creature emerges, a terrible figure with a female body, but possessing diabolical powers. This faceless creature stares at our brave hero with a unique and terrifying gaze. Her body is covered with numerous limbs and each arm seems to wield a different weapon. Without hesitation, the evil creature decides to confront our protagonist, and her attack power seems to be grand and tremendous. However, our brave blue-eyed warrior is ready to face any challenge. Chaos is near, and it seems the entire universe depends on this fighter. Yet, before we can discover how this battle will end, letters begin to appear. It looks more like the ending of any random adventure book. And to our surprise, it really was an adventure book. Our protagonist is lying in bed and is just an ordinary boy who seems to have finished yet another novel on his phone. After taking a deep breath, Chang Ting, our teenager, realizes that the story he was reading has really come to an end. Impatient, he scrolls through his tablet to check that the story is truly over, and confirms that it is. More than that, furious that the adventure has ended, the teenager throws the tablet on the bed, very irritated. While taking his first morning pee, an alert pops up on his tablet, but he doesn't see it. It seems our adventure in this magical world is just beginning. Hours pass, and the next day the sky is blue, showing that a new moment has begun. Chang Ting appears quite well dressed with his stylish clothes as he approaches the entrance of his school. Our protagonist shows deep irritation because some commotion is taking place in front of his school, and he immediately thinks it's a protest. However, our blue-eyed teenager realizes he must be mistaken. To his surprise, as he approaches the crowd, he notices that an entire building has disappeared. Ting starts sweating cold as he cannot believe what his eyes are showing. There was supposed to be a huge building in front of him. Emptiness takes over the environment, and what seemed like a normal day in that teenager's life takes on alarming proportions. While Chang Ting is paralyzed trying to understand what happened, he realizes the crowd around him is starting to panic. However, the young man is a rational thinker and tries to stay logical. Perhaps a new demolition company is conducting some tests. Walking slowly, the teenager reaches his school and heads toward room number 16. As he opens the door, Chang is brutally surprised by an unrecognizable creature that jumps in front of him. However, to our surprise, is not some terrible creature, but just Ting's blonde friend. In desperation, his friend starts theorizing about the possible end of the world approaching. Nevertheless, even with the blondie's desperation, Chang Ting tries to stay calm and gets annoyed with the boy. Full of enthusiasm, Ting's crazy friend starts showing him that everyone is talking about this on social media. Starting to feel uncomfortable, Chang Ting scratches his head, telling his friend it must be a coincidence. With an evil look, the crazy friend asks if he has never heard about the end of the world in various books. It seems the end of the world is indeed near. In a quick flash of consciousness, a teenager tries to argue, but words fail him at that moment. Full of sarcasm, Ting's friend complains that even at the end of the world, he pulls out the tablet to read the novel. When he grabs the device, the young man reads a frightening message informing him that the book he was reading has been deleted. However, this was no ordinary book. It was a book that spoke about this possible end of the world. Both realize that the book also has a moment where the protagonists talk about the end of the world. It is at this moment that Chang Ting's world seems to collapse and fiction starts turning into reality. Leaving through the school corridors, he makes up some excuse to shake off his friend. His friend cries when he realizes he'll miss his buddy. Running through the city streets, our hero starts remembering that in the book he read, there was a portal that led to another dimension. Time is running out, and Ting needs to be fast if he wants to prevent a catastrophe. Fearlessly, the teenager runs among the people who seem to be living their lives normally. It was right there in front of his eyes, a portal with the number 1. With heavy breathing, an old man appears to say something to him. After arriving at the place indicated in the book, the boy tries to remember how this was supposed to happen in the story he read. Quickly, he remembers that there were a total of 999 portals connected to a terrible spatial abyss. And as described in the book, today at midnight, terrible beings from the abyss of darkness will invade the earth. Monstrous and horrifying creatures will come to life, indescribable and terrifyingly strong beings, and terror will take over the universe. Terrible monsters of different levels will invade the planet, and even those who are strong won't be able to stop them. In the book, with the arrival of the terrifying monsters, there was only one path to salvation. An order of defenders against evil would be able to join forces to save humanity. It was the only chance. The first beings to appear would be level 1 monsters. Terrible, destructive wolves that devour everything. Chang Ting tries to think if he would be strong enough to do something like the protagonist of his book. He remembered well that level 2 monsters would be unimaginable aquatic beings. Even without knowing if things would happen the same way as in the book, Ting seemed to feel strong enough for the fight. Our hero decides to gather what he has to buy some things he will need. It won't be easy at all to fight a monster, so he will need some tools. A girl passes by him and realizes she knows the boy from school. Someone very angry starts yelling at her over the phone and tells her to go home immediately. Without thinking twice, the girl, who should be in class, agrees and ends up leaving Chang Ting for another time. Meanwhile, our boy is using his intelligence to build an incredible armor. With the tools he bought at the store, he builds something that is looking really cool. Looking at a gigantic spear, the young man realizes he is nervous and that he will need courage if he wants to face the creatures. Night falls, and with it comes the hope that everything will happen as in the book. However, even as midnight approaches, the place seems empty. There are only 20 minutes left until the time mentioned in the book, and our boy is ready to wipe out the enemy race. Looking closely at the clock, he realizes that the time has come and he will need a lot of courage. 3, 2, 1. The time for battle has arrived. And just like in the book, Ting realizes that the portal is open and no one is safe. Terrible beings from the abyss emerge to attack the boy. As predicted, the portal opened, and now it is time for humanity to face the consequences. A terrible sidereal light shines, showing that things will be far grander than they were in the story. However, to his misfortune, it is not just one light, but several red lights that take over the entire city. Widening his eyes, he realizes this is no joke. The time has come. In front of him appears a terrible wild creature that resembles a monstrous, beastly, and tremendously ferocious wolf. For the first time, our protagonist feels fear running through his veins, and it is truly a point of no return. The night becomes surrounded by darkness, and Chang Ting realizes that the wolf is indeed a creature from the depths of the abyss. As in the novel, the creature arrives thirsty for red juice and will do anything to destroy the hero. Trembling to his core, Ting tries to stay calm in front of that terrible animal. Focused, the beast with devouring eyes stares at our warrior, who also does not show insecurity. Before the young man could prepare, the terrible abyssal wolf charges ferociously at him. It is at this moment that the boy realizes this is not a game. It is reality, and the night beast is coming straight for him. Quickly, the warrior manages to dodge. And as the best defenses always attack, the brave one grabs his spear and prepares to face the wolf. Without thinking twice, Chang Ting thrusts his improvised spear into the beast's belly, which spittles all its filthy liquid into the air. The beast growls in desperation, trying to free itself from the spear, and the young man starts trembling, realizing what he has just done. Even trying to fight, the terrible abyssal wolf takes a deep breath and collapses in front of the boy, who wonders if he succeeded. The young man is scared because he realizes he is now entering an unexpected battle. However, a slight smile appears on his face. The end of the world is beginning. The young man finds it amusing because he realizes the terrible monster was no match for his talent. And before Ting could think, the ferocious animal starts staring at him. A terrible howl comes from the depths of the beast's soul as, with the spear still lodged in it, it cries out for help. However, something supernatural happens, as if the young man had just finished a video game battle. A message appears in the universe stating that the young man has just become the #1 human for defeating the terrible wolf. At that moment, the young man realizes he has just achieved his first victory. Slowly analyzing the message that appears to him, the hero feels very accomplished. And soon after, he feels a glorious power rising from within himself. The ancestral spirit of the terrible wolf takes over his body. Fiercer and stronger, the young man now possesses new abilities after his first victory. The glorious power of the creature invades Chang Ting's soul, and he feels increasingly stronger. Now he is no longer just a curious young man, but a true warrior determined to save all of humanity. After his transformation, he has just received the alert that he has acquired within himself the soul of the lone wolf. Thus emerges a new champion filled with power, agility, and great reflexes. As it was written in the book, our protagonist has now received all the energy contained in the soul of a wolf. And without thinking twice, the young man starts testing his fantastic new abilities. Very powerful, he is ready to face whatever comes. With clenched fists, he strikes the concrete. Amazingly, his punch destroys everything in front of him. A superhero has just been born. But the young man is still frightened by the size of his current power. A mysterious artifact appears in front of him, one he knows very well is an abyssal seed. Throwing it down his throat, the protagonist tries to absorb the powers of that artifact. His pupil dilates as he realizes he has just acquired one of the greatest powers in existence. Fully empowered, he can feel all the blue magic within his soul. But all that power seems to cause him a kind of nausea as he is still getting used to all of this. He has just received another ability, the power to launch his swords quickly. It is at this moment that he realizes humanity depends on him. At the right time, Chang Ting will be able to use his entire new arsenal to save humanity from this supernatural attack. The next step now is to understand how things will unfold in the coming days. Back at the school building, all the students seem to be engaged in a terrible conversation. And before Ting could understand what was happening, his friend jumps on top of him. With no time for nonsense, the young man dodges the boy, who ends up crashing to the ground. The blonde friend noticed that something had changed about the boy. To prove he was right, his friend starts pointing out that the news about monsters has spread. Indeed, they seem to be facing a terrible apocalyptic attack that will culminate in the end of the world. Showing his tablet, the boy states that several people are posting that whoever kills the creatures gains their powers. However, Chang Ting tries to fake a certain disinterest with his friend. He tries to show that he doesn't believe it, and soon his friend gets irritated. But the blonde friend keeps insisting that it is possible to gain superpowers from all of this. The young man ends the conversation by making it clear that he doesn't want to hear about it anymore, leaving his friend very surprised. The teacher enters the classroom and starts asking the students to stop spreading false rumors about the end of the world. However, Tig, knowing very well what he has experienced, states that in a few days they won't be able to call all this false rumors. His friend gets very irritated with what is happening. After a long day, the bell rings, putting everyone on alert. After the announcement, the teacher informs that class has finally ended. In a heavy atmosphere, Chang Ting's friend approaches and invites him to go to the sports court to talk more privately. The young man doesn't quite understand what is happening, but decides to follow his friend. Some other students also take the opportunity to hang out in the court. Without mincing words, Ting's friend starts a long interrogation. Realizing that the young man won't say anything about the events, he starts to cry. Continuing his drama, the blonde boy begins to fall into a crying crisis. He gets irritated and for the first time calls Takedo by his name, saying that he has things to say but that it requires secrecy. He complains to his friend, stating that he is indeed someone trustworthy. The teenager, now full of power, asks his friend to pay attention to what he will be able to do with just the tip of his finger. Simply by touching a piece of the staircase, it immediately crumbles like a cracker. The blonde nearly has a heart attack when he realizes that his friend has just broken a block of concrete with the tip of his fingers. And without further delay, Ting finally tells his friend the whole truth, making it clear that he has acquired new abilities. Takedo seems increasingly fascinated by his friend, especially when he realizes that those hands were the ones that defeated a wolf. While he was holding his friend's hand, the beautiful girl from the class looks at it suspiciously. Seeing that scene, the girl imagines that they are flirting. The young man tells his friend that in 3 days the monsters will attack the city again and that they need to be prepared. That young man needs to be ready to also gain the abilities of his friend. However, Chang Ting is increasingly clear in stating that this needs to be a secret between friends. Time passes slowly after that conversation. While walking back home, our hero keeps remembering that the next attack will happen far from there. He will need to prepare to face the terrible monster that resembles a giant ape. However, he must prepare because this monster's abilities are far superior. The next monster from the abyssal depths is a terrible gorilla. But if the young man follows the right steps, he will be able to defeat the creature and acquire new powers. Interrupting his thoughts, a woman appears in front of him. Looking closely, it could only be his aunt. The boy's aunt grabs him by the arm and calls him to have dinner at her house. The young man seems annoyed and asks if his uncle is at home at that moment. The boy's aunt, realizing what's going on, tells her nephew to calm down. Irritated, the young man thanks her for the concern but knows that now he can defend himself alone. Watching her nephew, she observes as he heads home, irritated. The young man's house is a complete mess, with bottles of alcohol scattered and leftover food everywhere. A red-haired kid talks about how Chang Ting is not at home. The boy's father, who apparently is his uncle, mocks him while drinking something. That drunk is claiming to be the owner of the house that actually belongs to the young man. Without warning, the hero delivers a powerful kick to the door, scaring the two scoundrels. Irritated and exuding all his power, Ting gets angry at seeing his uncle in that condition. His mischievous cousin gets up trying to defend his father. However, it only took the drunk father to raise his hand to silence him. His weird uncle approaches the young man trying to calm the situation. Getting close to the boy, he says that since he is about to go to college, he should look for a place to live on his own. Pointing a check in the boy's face, his scoundrel uncle tries to bribe him to leave the house. And before the young man can answer, his bratty cousin butts into the negotiation. Knowing he has enough power to defeat these fools, Ting tries to warn them that they are the ones who should leave. Realizing he is being threatened, his uncle gets furious at the nephew's boldness. Trying to stay calm, the young man starts throwing in their faces that they never helped his parents. They never helped when his parents needed money for the hospital the most. Trying to flip the situation, the boy's uncle starts threatening, claiming that he actually has rights to that house. Seizing the moment, the mischievous cousin throws in Chang Ting's face that he doesn't have parents to defend him. Going beyond the threats, the red-haired cousin even calls our brave hero a dog. Trying to hold back all his power, the young man tells his cousin to shut up and take back what he just said. However, not knowing he's talking to a superhero, the scoundrel keeps mocking. Not only him, but that bastard of an uncle also keeps making jokes. Unaware of the young man's strength, the cousin challenges him to a duel, saying he's going to beat him until he's purple. And before they could prepare, the teenager clenches his fist and smashes the face of his damn uncle. Taking the boy's punch, his body flies toward the ground, leaving his cousin terrified. "Bastard," he shouts, holding a glass bottle to smash it over Chang's head. But he is quickly surprised by a beautiful kick straight to the stomach. Without holding back, our champion makes sure to teach that brat a lesson. With his whole body shaking, the mischievous little cousin rides in pain while cursing the boy. Having no patience for all that conversation, the young man decides to leave that place and go straight to his room. Getting up from the floor, both the uncle and cousin are now crying in pain, having been seriously beaten by the boy. However, he has more serious problems to solve. He needs to pack his things because the next attack is near. Nevertheless, he makes it clear that he will avenge the memory of his parents no matter what. Walking past the scoundrels with a suitcase in hand, he soon catches the intruder's attention. Announcing that he's leaving, the young man warns that they will have 3 days to make a decision. With their hands where they were attacked, both get more and more nervous. His face was still swollen from the blow, and he wondered if the boy was actually giving up the house. Now it's the cousin who is getting irritated and thirsty for revenge. Far from there, he arrives at a very beautiful place that looks like a hotel. Approaching the receptionist, the young man says he wants a room for the next 2 nights. With a seductive look, a girl offers him something more than just lodging, like a private massage. Embarrassed by the proposal he received, he starts wondering if that hotel is the right place for a student. Appearing nervous, the receptionist tries to touch his skin. Quickly, the boy pulls his hand away since he wasn't expecting that, and the girl understands and gives him the room number. From the window, we can see that it is an apparently promiscuous environment. With heavy breathing, we see that the boy is focused on something. In the next scene, a girl seems to be making funny noises. But before you think anything inappropriate, he was hearing noises coming from the room next door. Apparently, that wasn't an appropriate hotel for a young man his age. But now there was no turning back. However, the noise coming from the room next door was becoming increasingly unbearable. Inside room 210, we see that there are more people annoyed by the noise. 2 women are complaining that they have to endure that racket for a greater purpose. However, Sakura-sama, the girl with pink hair, is increasingly irritated by what she hears. Annoyed with the situation, the young Sama interrogates Mio, the woman with short white hair. Appearing more experienced, Mio starts advising the girl that she needs to take a deep breath. However, it seems Sama gets irritated with the woman's advice. Mio gives a slight smile, saying there's not much to be done about this situation. Looking into the distance, the white-haired woman can only think about the end of the world and the monster invasion. Now she looks firmly at Sama and says that she will need to be strong. The girl nods, saying she can handle it. Then breathe for 10 seconds, girl. However, the young Sakura-sama gets irritated again by how calmly Mio handles things. 2 days pass, and we see that it's already dark and midnight is approaching. We see that Ting is with his friend at the place where things will happen. The young man is confident that this is where the creatures will appear. Takedo takes a deep breath and asks if his friend is confident that he can defeat the terrible beings of darkness. The cowardly friend quickly states that if anything dangerous happens, he will run away, but our hero assures him he can handle it. Seeing that situation, the young man wonders how they are still friends. Pulling out his glowing device, the young man confirms that there are exactly 30 minutes left until the attack. At that moment, the hero remembers how everything is supposed to happen according to the book. However, to the boy's surprise, something unexpected happens. Chang Ting grabs his friend by the neck and tries to hide from something that is about to arrive. Right before his eyes appear the 2 girls from the hotel, and he immediately recognizes Sama. Looking firmly at them, the young man cannot believe what he's seeing since they weren't in the book. Not understanding what is happening, the friends start wondering why they would be there. Taking a deep breath, the boy tries to find an answer and quickly realizes that they are also looking for the abyssal monsters. Looking at each other, both Mio and Sakura-sama prepare themselves to face the challenge. After thinking hard, Takedo remembers that the girl's family is known for being part of the special police. Something told him that they were there to handle some secret police mission. But if those girls stay there, the young Chang Ting won't be able to accomplish his long-awaited and dreamed of mission. Arriving at the marked spot with the number 2, the young woman wonders if that's where the monsters will appear. Mio approaches the mark left on the ground and states that dangerous things will come as soon as the clock strikes midnight. However, it's necessary to stay on constant alert because the monsters that will emerge from there do not resemble those from the real world. Holding a massive bomb, Mio is more than ready to face these creatures of darkness. And for you, a pistol with great caliber. Hold it tight and blow the monster's brains out. Sakura-sama seems to handle that pistol very well, and with fire in her eyes, she appears ready for combat. From the top of the court, the friends watch all that mess without really understanding what's going on. Taking a deep breath and trying to stay calm, Ting advises his friend. A terrible smoke starts to take over the area, and the warrior Mio seems ready. From afar, the young man watches everything that's happening and finds it strange that they are using a bomb as a weapon. They still don't know, but the first monster that will appear will be much more violent. But if anything happens, he would be here to protect them. The clock is approaching the set time, and along with it, the bomb's timer is armed. The countdown begins from the girl's mouth. When the clock struck midnight, both Sakura-sama and Mio were ready to face the danger. A terrible curse is conjured at that place, and sinister forces emerge before everyone. The portal opens, and incredibly, the entire environment turns into cosmic horror. Before anyone can prepare, 2 creatures from the depths of the abyss appear. With a smile on his face, the young man curses at the girls for not being prepared for the monster's attack. Quickly, the incredible Mio grabs the bomb's remote and, without thinking much, presses the button. A massive explosion occurs, causing all the building's foundations to shake immediately. The intergalactic dust fills the area, and the 2 girls can finally celebrate. But it seems it's still too early to smile. In an attack position, the 2 join forces to face the creature that is still alive. It seems that only the first monster was defeated with a bomb explosion. The other terrible being, seeing that it must destroy those cursed ones, charges, thirsty for human flesh. What it didn't expect was that the warrior Mio was ready for combat. With her powerful laser weapon, the girl shoots at the dangerous creature. Before they can see the result of the shot, they decide to flee from that unhealthy place. The terrible beast decides to attack the girls without any mercy. Throwing a massive punch, it barely misses hitting our warrior's face. The creature looks at the ground and notices a gigantic rock that can be used as an attack weapon. And without thinking twice, it hurls that heavy concrete block toward the girls. Mio is hit hard in the back and ends up falling to the ground, begging Sakura-sama to run because she doesn't know if she can hold on. At that moment, the young Sama looks into Mio's eyes and begs her to get up. The young girl then witnesses when that terrible beast stands imposingly and raises its fist. Knowing the pain she will face, the white-haired girl cries out for mercy. Immediately, the pink-haired girl quickly closes her eyes because she doesn't want to see her friend crushed. A deafening noise fills the environment, and unexpectedly, our savior appears, cruelly attacking that terrible beast. Smashed against the wall, the fearsome gorilla is left unconscious for a few moments. Strong and powerful, the young hero stands in front of the girl, making it clear that he will do anything to protect her. His hands are trembling because this one really hurt. With tears in her eyes, the young girl shows all her pain. Before she could look at Mayo's body, she quickly realizes that she is okay and that this was not the end for her. Knowing that the beast can get up at any moment, the hero warns that the two girls need to leave. At that moment, the girl realizes she recognizes the boy from school and asks what he is doing there. However, much more important than knowing his reasons is getting out of there immediately. At that moment, the abominable creature rises from the shadows and launches a deadly blow against our hero. It seems that the giant ape is ready to unleash all its hateful power against Chang Ting. What it didn't expect was for the brave one to grab its furry fist with all his strength. Focusing to use all his attack power, the champion lets out a scream of rage. And then we see the terrible beast being launched once again against the construction walls. However, the boy's strength is starting to fade, and his attack power is becoming equal to the gorilla's. But this has a time limit, and he pulls out his secret weapon. The giant beast stares at our legendary fighter, believing it can devour him. Our hero leaps with his sharp spear to destroy the fearsome predator. Before the beast could defend itself, the young man tears the gorilla's skin with a fatal strike, causing juice to gush everywhere. With nothing else to do, the creature moans in pain from receiving that powerful attack. That blow was so strong that the beast's rotten body started spilling an infectious nectar and its power was dissipated. And as our warrior expected, a message appears before him congratulating him for the attack. As the beast lost all its power, the young man began to be rewarded for the glorious attack. A new ability seems to have been immediately unlocked after the bloody strike. Both Sakura-sama and Mio, upon seeing this, are immediately surprised. As the boy expected, everything is happening exactly as stated in the book. Increasingly proud of his work, the boy strikes a beautiful pose to receive praise. He just didn't expect that loudmouth Takeda would start complaining. Annoyed by that, Chang Ting makes a huge jump toward his friend. Grabbing the cowardly blonde by the neck, the boy suddenly has an idea. Remembering their deal, Ting wants his friend to gain new abilities as well. But before the cowardly friend could gather the courage, they hear a noise. Those girls were still there even after almost ruining their plans. Walking toward the two, they thank them for saving Sama, but remind them that the monster. Immediately, he cuts off the lecture to make it clear that it doesn't matter what she's going to say about the monster. However, Mio seems adamant about negotiating over the monster's body. Trembling with fear and trying to avoid any kind of conflict, Takedo tries to calm the situation. To shut the boy up, the young man offers him his powerful weapon. Now it's time for his friend to fulfill his part of the deal. Without thinking too much, the young man pierces a monster's skin. As expected, the boy, who until then was a coward, has just gained new abilities. Terrified of being attacked, the skinny guy screams to make sure the monster won't move again. With no patience for his friend, Chang Ting complains for him to finish the job once and for all. Now Sakura-sama has realized they won't gain anything from this, and Mio threatens our hero, declaring vengeance. Mio bids farewell to that situation, uttering words of hatred against the boy. Now that he's more powerful, the young man can only find those threats at least amusing. Before leaving, the girl declares that Sama's family is involved in a powerful project in that city, but the boy can't give an answer to the invitation and decides to think about it. Mio thanks him for the attention and says that if he needs anything, he should contact Sakura-sama. As the girls leave, the young man takes a deep breath, feeling relieved after such a long day. Now it's time for Chang Ting to devour that seed. Quickly, the young man swallows that powerful gem without knowing that he would immediately feel the power radiating through his body. Now he has become much more powerful than before. Moving his arms, he immediately starts feeling stronger. His strength is really increasing and it feels amazing. At that moment, his friend starts realizing that things are really getting serious. With his sweet and spontaneous way, the young man tries to calm his partner. Besides, he also says that the tool that appeared will help a lot. And we soon realize that that slingshot will be capable of hurting monsters. Smiling, his friend Chang Ting realizes that the stats are excellent. Reflecting for a moment, Takedo thinks before speaking. Feeling safer with a pistol, the young man says that now he feels smarter. The truth is, he can only be grateful to his friend. Hugging each other, the friends head back to the hotel. Far from there, the girls are now in the car, and Meo apologizes to Sakura-sama for failing. The white-haired girl is determined to take a different approach. Clicking on her communicator, she speaks the name of our protagonist, destined to take revenge for what he did. Far from them, back at the luxurious hotel, the discomfort between the friends is only growing as they hear the noises coming from the room next door. Takedo, increasingly uncomfortable, asks his friend if it's really necessary to stay in that noisy room. Raising his hand to his friend, he says that he actually has a little money with him. Chang Ting replies that he has a little more money, but soon money will start to lose its meaning. The blonde friend looks at him with that mischievous look. And already knowing where this is going, the young man says that he's not going to let him use the phone to order whatever he's thinking. Embarrassed, the blonde insists that he didn't say anything and wasn't even thinking about it. Someone knocks on the door, shouting room service. Regardless of anything else, Chang Ting is starving, and it's time to eat. As he grabs the delivery, he checks out who came to drop it at his room. A gorgeous woman looks at him with a bold look, clearly wanting something more. Even from afar, that sweetheart drops some sweet words to the boy. A little embarrassed, the boy finds it cute and gets all giddy. Returning to the room, he takes a deep breath. While eating their meal, the young man remembers that tomorrow morning the sun will disappear before everyone's eyes. At that moment, a green light will shoot toward the planet, and everyone will call it the Emerald Sun. As the Emerald Sun rises, the entire planet will turn green, and a voice will announce that Earth now belongs to the abyssal underworld. The world leaders will realize that the problem is serious and will look for ways to intervene in this situation. At this moment, when portals number 3 and 4 appear, humanity will be gaining more abilities. Meanwhile, humanity will create special forces to contain the advance. Scientists from around the world will try to contain and study the abyssal forces. However, as time progresses, the abyssal creatures will become increasingly stronger and more dangerous. While finishing their meal, they wondered about being the strongest on Earth. Chewing his food, Chang Ting took the opportunity to reflect with his friend about being just one of the strongest. After realizing what he was saying, he became alert. Takeda realizes that he is among the 30 most powerful people on the planet and feels incredible about it. However, he soon notices that something is wrong with his friend, who remains in a terrible state of alert. Without saying goodbye to his friend, he quickly gets up from the table and runs off, saying he'll be back soon. At that moment, his friend becomes very curious to understand what is happening. Then he feels sad because he is not as powerful as his friend. When he arrives at the reception, Chang Ting asks about the girl he saw, and they confirm that she is not one of them. With a cigarette in her mouth, the receptionist says that she is an outsider who comes occasionally. Smiling slowly, she cannot say what the girl was doing there since she could earn much more somewhere else. That was exactly why the boy was looking for that woman. The woman thinks that somehow the young man might know who that mysterious person is. Without hesitation, the boy asks which room that woman is staying in. But due to hotel rules, the receptionist cannot give that information. At that moment, our hero pulls out a handsome sum of money and throws it on the table. Apparently, the receptionist's price was quite low, and she quickly gives him the woman's room number. Taking a deep breath, the boy decides to go to the woman's room to learn more about who she is. Pressing number 5, the elevator immediately starts going up to the desired floor. That world is filled with 12 people with super abilities. If he can gather all these 12, he will soon be able to join forces to stop the attacks against the city. It seems that in the book, they find the 12 thanks to the ability of a woman with the power of a scorpion. Her name is never mentioned in the book, but she was an important character because she had a specific tattoo. The scorpion woman was a powerful escort who mistreated her captives. As the boy noticed very well, that girl also had a similar tattoo. When he arrived at the indicated door, he immediately became nervous because there was a chance he was completely wrong. According to the book, that woman hated men, so he needed to be careful. After ringing the doorbell, he waited for the woman to appear. Immediately, she appeared before him wearing inappropriate clothes. Trying to speak sensually, the girl begins to tempt our hero. Chang Ting apologizes for the inconvenience and tries to handle the situation. Touching his face, the girl asks him to come into the apartment. Never having felt this before, our hero begins to feel tempted. Whispering in the young man's ear, she tries to convince him that he will really enjoy it. Gathering the courage to face that challenge, the young man takes a deep breath and starts running away from the situation. That woman stares at the boy fleeing and says there must be something wrong with him. Desperate, the boy begins to blame himself for what happened and tries to sleep to forget what occurred. After a good night's rest, a day begins and Takedo opens his eyes. Getting up from bed desperately, he asks his friend to let him sleep a little longer. However, our brave friend is already watching the window and informs him that there is only 1 minute left until the great tragedy happens. Remembering the prophecy, the young man jumps out of bed to witness the event involving the sun. Furious with what he sees, the young man cannot believe what is happening before his eyes. A terrible laser beam appears among the clouds, descending directly from the sky. The true end of the world has just begun. Immediately, the city streets start turning completely green. Some people can't see because of this terrible green light that invades the entire city. Some pedestrians quickly realize what is happening, and when looking at the sky, they notice that the sun is completely green. In an impressive and brutal way, the emerald light invades life on Earth, and now it is impossible to escape what is coming. That mysterious woman is walking in the middle of the street with those strange clothes and dying of sleep from the previous night. Something catches the woman's attention when she notices that the sun is literally green. Have you ever heard that some types of people end up developing new colors in their vision due to cancer-related diseases? That shade looks brilliantly beautiful to the woman who couldn't stop staring. Pouring over the earth, that color spread ineffably everywhere, and the woman's desire was to feel it. Immediately, the figure of a gigantic space scorpion took over the woman's vision. Radiating something sinister, it made her eyes become obsessed with that intergalactic being. When she realized it, she was lying on the ground without understanding what was happening. While receiving that macabre energy, the girl went into a terrible collapse and ended up collapsing on the sidewalk. Meanwhile, the friends were staring firmly at the apocalypse, unfolding before their eyes. However, a terrifying voice emerged from space, speaking to all humanity. That voice gained specific colors, and coming directly from space took over the entire Earth. As the unnameable form began to appear, terrible prophecies were cast against all humanity. It seems the Abyssal War is near, and this demonic figure is ready to play with life on Earth. Summoning the forces of the Abyssal world, that terrible creature is ready to unleash evil on Earth. From there, terrible, unnameable beings from the abyss will emerge, thirsty to spread corruption across the world. While that monstrosity utters its terrible blasphemies, the girls listen to everything attentively. 999 portals will be opened, and from them, terrible monsters will come out to attack life on Earth. It seems that humanity may have some chance to fight, but it will be very difficult to face each monster. If humanity loses this battle, this terrible being will devour the remaining life that still exists on Earth. This creature is ready to play with humanity and witness corruption on Earth. After delivering the terrible prophecies, that being wishes everyone good luck and releases a terrifying light into the sky. Along with that light, the evil being disappears without leaving a trace. After the announcement, Takedo is trembling with fear and nudges his friend. Indignant with what he just saw, young Takedo wonders if that was the announcement of the end of the world, because it seems that humanity has no salvation. Without knowing what to answer, Chang Ting prefers to stay silent rather than say something foolish. At this moment, the young man gathers strength to remember everything he saw in that damned book. And if he's right, terrible things are about to begin. Frightened by the way his friend speaks, Takedo starts interrogating the young man. Far from there, the true world leaders begin to discuss the future of humanity. An elder at the end of the table decides to stand up and says that Earth is about to become a playground in the hands of those creatures. However, another man from the armed forces claims that it is necessary to destroy those filthy creatures. It seems the situation is really serious, and they are willing to sacrifice civilians. At this moment, another man stands up and begins to protest, saying that we are truly doomed. His name is Itsu Yuta, and he wants to make it clear that none of those present know who they are dealing with. Leader Matsumoto Kao gets irritated with this guy's slowness. At that moment, Mr. Yuta proposes the idea of creating a super squad to defend the Earth. Staring firmly at the other participants, the older man says it's not a bad idea, but he doesn't know how to recruit those people. In fact, people are very terrified of the abyssal monsters, and it's time to look for a path to peace. Everyone agrees with the statement about world peace. Far from there, our hero already knows very well that the government will try to implement a super squad. But Takedo, with all his lucidity, wonders how they are going to enlist. Looking firmly at his friend, Chang Ting states that they will have to fight to prove their worth. It seems that in the book, the protagonist ended up losing his freedom and the chance to join the team. However, at this moment, it is not the time to put his freedom at risk. It is necessary to help save the world. But the young friend still wonders how they will be able to do that. At this first moment, the young man will need to find some kind of job to support himself in the coming weeks. But Yuna's own friend cannot understand because that would be his job. It's time to face Chang Ting's drunk uncle. After hearing that, the young man is already preparing for what he is about to face. Seeing that his friend is getting angrier and angrier, Takedo tries to remind him that they are heroes, not villains. It seems our protagonist knows that very well, but he is willing to take revenge and be brave in his own way. The fools are completely terrified that when they manage to get the house, this abyssal attack happens. And it seems the cousin suspects that the young man knew very well what he was doing. Even with the world ending, that drunkard only cares about enjoying the moment. A noise arises without them noticing. At that moment, the uncle already realizes what's happening, and it's clearly the bastard nephew. Before he can scream for help, he sees his son splatter against the wall. Yes, he has just been brutally attacked. It happened so quickly that he didn't even have time to think when he saw the nephew in front of him. Without moving a muscle, Chang Ting states that he will be next. Realizing that the boy has just committed a crime, the uncle threatens him, saying that he's a murderer, and the young man replies that he knows that very well. Desperate and begging for his life, that filthy uncle starts appealing to family ties. However, it seems the young man doesn't care about any of those disgusting excuses. With all the hatred in the world, the young man yells at his uncle, saying he is the one responsible for all the bad things that happened to him. Getting closer and closer to the uncle, Ting is ready to commit his greatest revenge of all time. Begging for mercy, uncle asks the nephew to stop and forget everything that happened. Drawing his sword, the young man is prepared to put an end to it all once and for all. But before he finishes the matter, his uncle screams, saying he knows who killed Mi-san. That hits the young man like a punch to the face. He wasn't expecting that information. Afraid the nephew didn't hear, the uncle makes it clear that he knows who killed the boy's mother. Growing even more furious, The boy's eyes spark as he demands to know once and for all who was responsible. Begging for mercy, he claims it was the nephew of some Chief Katu, who was driving drunk and hit his mother. Desperate for more answers, the young man asks how that bastard knew this. One time, while they were drinking together, the chief confessed it to him in secret. At that moment, he realizes why the police never investigated his mother's death. Now that he has confessed everything, he begs for mercy not to be killed. As the uncle was about to leave, he thanks the nephew. However, it seems it was already too late, and he feels something strange happen. In a terrible manner, Chang Ting's sword ends up piercing his chest. It seems the strike is precise and fatal. Celebrating his deed, the young man carefully analyzes his equipment and seems very proud of what he has just done. However, at that exact moment, his friend shows up at his house and is surprised by what he sees. In his defense, the young man states that soon many people will die anyway. Now they need to prepare for the next 2 weeks. Putting their backpacks on, they seem ready for a new journey. Looking at each other, they trust that they are ready for this new challenge. Greeting each other, they confirm that it is time to fight. Soon, 2 weeks pass, and Mayo and Sakura-sama are talking in the car. The apocalypse is coming, and they continue discussing the next steps. Sama seems a bit uncomfortable with all of this. Looking firmly at the road, they seem to have seen something terrible. Their car accelerates immediately, making a loud noise. At that moment, we see a tall, handsome guy startled by everything that is happening. Unafraid of what might happen, the girls promptly stop the car quickly. Opening the doors rapidly, the two jump out of the vehicle and head toward the mysterious, handsome man. With a smile on his face, the charming guy greets them and says that finally the two have arrived. In a complete state of anger, it can only look at the guy with disdain. In an epiphany moment, Sakura-sama seems to remember something. At that moment, we realize that the handsome guy is none other than the former coward Asahi Takedo. It seems that the abilities acquired also changed the young man's appearance, who is now more attractive. Even though that was impressive, Sama Mio says she had heard about it before, but it's still surprising. Out of absolutely nowhere, a heavy backpack appears, as if someone threw it into the air. Without anyone expecting it, the heavy backpack ends up falling on Takedo, who is immediately disoriented. Even more charming than before, the young Chang Ting catches his friend's attention and tells him to get into the girl's car. Before they even invite him, our hero adjusts the back seat and starts getting into the vehicle. All this charm from the young man continues to impress his friend's eyes. Before an awkward silence fills the car, the skilled driver starts making conversation with the brave one. From what the boy knows, the third and dangerous portal will appear in a city park. Then it was time for the four of them to head to that location. When the clock was about to strike midnight, they were arriving at the place. As they approached the portal, they saw the number 3 stamped on the ground. Even knowing they would find the location, the girl was still scared to see that the young man was actually right. Liking what he heard, the young man asked to receive more compliments when there are other people around. But the truth is that the girl wasn't in the mood to boost the boy's ego any further. Now it's time to put distractions aside because in less than 30 minutes, the third portal will open. Unashamed of being pathetic, the blonde friend asks to receive the next ability the portal provides. But he's quickly interrupted by his friend so he doesn't mess everything up with his clumsiness. As midnight strikes, it doesn't take long for the portal to open and from it emerge horrendous creatures. Knowing very well what awaits, the young man warns everyone to get ready. This time, both Mayo and Sama were in a total state of alert. From the middle of nowhere, a malicious and slimy being began to take shape, and it was very disgusting to see. However, to Takedo's surprise, the slimy creature was much bigger than he was expecting. Knowing his friend's terrible track record, Chang Ting asks him not to screw up. Starting to prepare, the duo tries to remember the plan they made. This terrible slimy monster is much more dangerous because it has tentacles that release lethal acid. Following the plan, our duo decides to start the attack with Takedo shooting one of the tentacles so his friend can engage. Realizing he is about to be attacked, the terrible creature becomes more imposing and aggressive toward the two. At first, the young man gets nervous and finds it all way too scary. Knowing his friend's personality, our hero tries to encourage him. Rising even more, the abyssal creature doesn't wait long and starts attacking our duo. Its terrible tentacles take an assertive position against Takedo and his pistol. Staring firmly at the monster, the young man tries to concentrate intensely. Spending all his focus, he fires, making it clear that this attack is for world peace. His skill is incredible because he managed to shoot right at the tentacles as planned earlier. At that moment, it was time for our champion to step into action. Running immediately toward the creature, Chang Ting jumps. Shouting at the creature, the young man leaps in an attacking motion. His powerful and sharp sword manages to tear a good piece of that filthy creature. It seems that was the weak point of the sticky being, which starts melting before their eyes. Staring at the scene, the two girls ask if they finally managed to finish off the monster. After checking that they did, the young man throws his weapon to Sama to finish the job. With all of her strength, the girl drives the spear into that gelatinous body. However, in a sudden alert, Takedo lets out a gigantic scream toward his friends. No one understands anything, and they all start questioning each other. But before he could explain the reason for the scream, a huge explosion happened in their direction. Carrying Sakura-sama in his arms, our hero tries to understand what's happening now. A deep male voice arises, saying that the attack was great. That bastard who appears claims he was going to kill them, but this time will let them run away. This creature is mine, he states shamelessly. The four friends stare at that filthy man approaching the monster they defeated, but our victorious one will not let this slide as he looks with pure hatred at that bully. Irritated by what is happening, Chang Ting asks how he knew about this place. Mio, sweating cold, says the information must have leaked. However, that damn scumbag tries to joke about the situation. More impressive than anything is that in the book, this didn't happen this way, and it is scaring our hero. It seems the story is adjusting to new times and events. Unafraid to face the boy, that bully gets closer and closer. Seeing that our hero was completely paralyzed, that jerk taunts the young man even more. Breathing deeply, the boy tries to stay calm in that situation. Seeing that Chang Ting is trying to take a deep breath, the guy asks why he is doing that. Gripping his fist, the boy states that he is preparing for the right moment to end his kind. That immediately puts the bully on high alert. Before he could think, our hero raises his fist and tries to attack him. However, contrary to what the young man expected, that bastard managed to quickly defend himself, which surprised him. Giving a wide smile, the scumbag says it was a nice hit. At that moment, realizing it's going to be a tough duel, the young man starts adjusting himself. Shouting to his friend, the duo tries a surprise attack. Without mercy for the bully, Takedo fires countless golden bullets at that unfortunate guy. But before they could predict it, the powerful stranger raises his hands in front of the bullets and manages to defend himself. Bragging about his defense, he says he couldn't imagine that two kids would know how to fight so well. But the guy won't let that threat go unpunished. With that, the boy shouted, putting even more power into his shots, which came out like fire bullets. Wearing a malicious smile, that filthy man says it won't be any trouble. To the villain's surprise, the boy manages to hit his fire rays toward the magic orbs he was using. In addition, Take It Up precisely hits the arm of that arrogant bastard. Not imagining he would be wounded by those kids, the stranger becomes very furious. After realizing he managed to attack that bastard, the young man feels very proud. But the bully wouldn't let it end that way and soon charges toward the boys. Running past Chang Ting, the guy keeps running even faster. At that moment, he stops in front of the blonde with those bright and fierce eyes. With all his strength, the guy clenches his fist and immediately punches Takedo in the face as he tries to defend. However, the stranger's attack power is too strong, and at that moment, the boy's body flies at high speed. Seeing his friend was hurt, our hero cries out his name. Raising his fist toward the bully, Chang Ting also clenches his hand, ready to smash that bastard in a fight. However, he is immediately stopped by the man's hand, who quickly grabs his face. Before our brave one could launch his attack, the violent stranger slams the young man's face into the ground. For the first time, Ting faced an enemy at his level, and it caused him pain. With violet flames in his eyes, the bully raises his arm to attack the boy once more. He even tries to lift his fist to defend himself, but that attack power is way too strong. Unafraid of the consequences, the guy manages to crush the boy's face, causing him deep pain. That pain takes over the boy's whole body, who doesn't know what to do under such an onslaught. Smiling maliciously, the villain believes this is already a won battle. Without mercy to end the boy's existence, the bastard continues smashing his face. It seems to be a lost fight, and the girls are very afraid of what will happen. Raising her weapon against the stranger, Mio tries to defend her friend. But before she could fire, the coward throws a terrible blow at the girl, who has no power. Still holding the spear in her hands, Sakura-sama really wants to attack, but is warned not to do anything. Seeing the chaos he just caused in the arena, the guy starts walking toward the creature. With a slight pain in his neck, he states that he will need to go to a hospital after that beating. However, before he gets close to the strange creature, he hears a voice right behind him. That scream was from none other than our hero, who still had the strength to fight. To the bastard's surprise, he doesn't even have time to defend. With a mighty punch, Chang Ting manages to surprise that scumbag, who flies through the air screaming in pain. His attack was so powerful and strong that the bastard's body kept flying farther and farther. Unconscious and not knowing where he was, the stranger could only moan from so much pain. With trembling hands, Ting could only take a deep breath, but his entire body was aching. Finding strength where there was none left, our brave one ran to try to help his friend. Lifting Takedo's body slowly and carefully, he began checking if everything was okay. It seems that after all that fight, the young man had seriously injured his fist. Our duo headed toward the monstrous creature to try to finish their mission. Before any new surprise appeared, Sakura-sama drew her spear and finished the creature right there. Knowing what needed to be done next, Chang Ting immediately ordered Sama to consume the abyssal seed. Levitating quickly, the girl's body begins to receive a glorious ability. Everyone keeps walking to leave that place, and it seems Mio is very injured. However, the most injured one remains that bastard scumbag who will think twice before messing with our heroes again. Trying to lift his body off the ground, the bastard realizes he is completely broken. Yet he still doesn't quite know where he is, much less his own name. Everything in his body hurts, and it will take a long time to recover from so much pain. Slowly getting up, the bastard begins to come to his senses. Cursing everything and everyone, he heads toward a house. Kicking the door aggressively, he arrives at the place screaming at everyone. To our surprise, it looks more like an evil headquarters, and there is that mysterious hottie. Another guy says he is surprised by the power of our brave heroes. Still recovering, the bully starts explaining to his allies that those kids are terribly powerful. However, the time has come for the League of Evil to take some action against our protagonists. Realizing that those guys want to join forces with the kids, the bully starts complaining. Trying to include the other woman in the conversation, he asks what she thinks and calls her Ibarra. That makes the woman completely stressed because she has said 1,000,000 times that her name is now Scorpiana. Hearing that, the bully finds it funny that the woman wants to be called Scorpiana. But before he can continue his teasing, the woman launches a violent attack against him. With her magical fist close to the guy's throat, Scorpiana warns that this will be his last warning. Knowing his strength, the guy faces the woman and is ready to end her if she continues with that. However, the other partner is tired of all this nonsense and orders them to stop the quarrel. It is time to think of a way to continue with their secret mission. Looking firmly at the two, he states that if they don't stop, he will punish them in an infernal way. Both of them went on high alert, making it clear that the threat was really serious. Giving a slight nervous smile, Scorpiana asks the leader not to make that mean face and says it's all over now. The bully looks at the leader and is shocked because he knows that if the leader wants, he can become a real demon. To conclude the conversation, the guy says that Ibarra needs to come back there after 3 days. Knowing very well who's in charge, the girl who prefers to be called Scorpiana nods and says she'll do what was ordered. Far from there, we see a grand hospital. We soon realize that our heroes are there wanting to know how Manhwa is doing. After all, she's the only one without powers. According to the doctor, she fractured some bones, but soon she'll be fine again. Looking at our dear Takiko, the doctor says he also needs rest if he wants his arm to be back in place. Excited by the doctor's news, the crazy guy raises his arm to celebrate but quickly forgets that it's injured. A weird noise comes from inside the cast, and it seems that one really hurt. Our friend shuts up and stays silent so he doesn't scream from the intense pain he feels at that moment. Heading toward the exit, the doctor says goodbye to our heroes and informs them that if anything happens, just call him. Worried about how the last battle went, Sakura-sama tries to apologize to Chang Ting, who tells her not to worry. For Ting, the battle is not yet lost because he knows there will still be new chances for new abilities. This time, the young girl is more than determined and committed to facing the challenges and acquiring new powers. Raising the tip of her delicate and harmless fingers, Sama surprises everyone in the room with her new magical power. Not believing what they are seeing, Takiko looks at the girl's hands in awe as he asks what it is. For those who thought the girl had the ability to control fire, she smiles because her powers go far beyond that. Making a point to show all 4 elements in her hand, the girl gives a beautiful, mischievous smile. Once again, the emotional boy cannot contain his joy and is super excited for what's to come. Thinking carefully about what he is seeing, our protagonist remembers that in the book, this was actually possible. As far as he could remember, there was a young woman capable of facing any threat using the 5 elements. At this moment, even Sakura-sama herself is surprised by the amount of power and abilities she carries within her. Testing her powers well, the girl discovers that by using fire and water, she can launch attacks. By conjuring forest elements, she will be able to help heal her allies. But not only that, when used correctly, the earth element will serve as an excellent means of defense. By unleashing the power of metal, Sakura-sama will be able to launch powerful sharp spears. Showing his needy side, young Takeda reveals that he wishes he could do that too. Now that she knows she is a superheroine, the young girl reveals that she wants to talk to Chang Ting. Excited to hear what's coming, the young man agrees, saying he's all ears. Seeming to know something important, the girl reveals that the government is recruiting a big team of people with abilities. After revealing what she knows, Sakura-sama is firm in saying that she intends to join this new troop of fighters and invites the young man to go with her. However, as we already know, our invincible hero is not at all interested in being part of this team of government people. Noticing her friend's negative response, the girl tries to keep insisting because she knows that her friend's help will be extremely important. According to Sakura-sama, it would be very important to have her friend on the team since he would help with all the logistics of attacks by knowing things. However, making Sama extremely sad, Chang Ting does not want to miss the chance to be an independent young man. There's not much to say at this moment because our brave one seems determined to pursue a solo career. After the young man makes his position clear, she seems to understand his side but makes a point of saying that he has her support. Taking advantage of this opening, the boy, who is completely broke, says he needs a bit of money. That somehow seems to please Sama because according to her, her family has plenty of spare money. Noticing that she's feeling proud, he takes the chance to ask for $1 billion, which leaves Takedo completely embarrassed. At that moment, he realizes he went too far and decides to correct his offer, asking for $5 million. Seeing that her friend is pushing the limits, the girl tries to scold him and tells him to be ashamed of himself. After the pointless speech, Sakura-sama says she has the money and that he just needs to give her his account number for her to make the payment. Taketo nearly has a heart attack when he realizes that the girl was actually serious and was going to send that money. Pulling his friend aside, Chang Ting starts saying goodbye, claiming that he will send the account number but needs to go. It seems he needs to go handle some problems. At that moment, his friend gets irritated because once again, he's making decisions without consulting him or asking for his opinion. At that moment, Samma starts wondering why young Chang Ting needs such a large amount of money. Far from there, the story continues in another scene of the hospital. From what his friend remembered, Ting had given a big speech about the monetary system collapsing, which makes him question his friend's request, who answers that they need to set up a mercenary organization, and that requires money. At that moment, Takedo gets super excited because knowing his friend will be the captain, obviously he will be the vice captain. First, our hero needs to go rest in the mountains, and second, if necessary, he will have to threaten someone. That worries his friend a lot because now he's starting to talk like he's a major villain. But what really matters is that they need to train to conquer the next abyssal seed. That sounds weird to Takedo, who stays silent for a few seconds. Letting out a loud scream, the young man panics near the hospital's escalator. Far from there, we see the training academy. But before anything else, it's already clear that the two friends are lying on the ground, extremely tired from fighting. On television, the reporter seems to announce that the world depends on the strength of the team that will face the enemies. According to the news, the security department is doing everything it can to gather a team of specialists to save the planet. Even tired from training, both Chang Ting and Takedo try to talk and plan the next steps of their adventure. It seems there's not much time left before our heroes face one of the biggest challenges of their lives, and the young man is already dreaming about that day. At that moment, young Ting gets up saying that time is very tight and the day of the battle is approaching. However, before he could finish his train of thought, the young man sees something evil forming right in front of him. The two friends jump toward the threat to try to defend themselves from the brutal attack. Unleashing all her hatred, the villain, Scorpiana, is determined to destroy our heroes with her demonic powers. However, just as she was about to unleash all her hatred, something unexpected happens. Immediately, the hottie remembers bumping into Chang Ting in the hotel hallways that day. Seeing that there was some kind of spark between them, Takedo asks if his friend knows that creature from somewhere. Throwing herself on the ground in a very daring way, the woman tries to seduce our favorites by asking for a little water. But before his friend could do anything stupid, Takedo jumps toward the place where the water is stored and hands a bottle to the woman. At that moment, something very unusual happens because the mischievous Scorpiana touches his hands. Noticing that his friend starts to weaken, the woman asks if he's going to stay quiet and if he has a girlfriend. Not only that, being even bolder, the shameless woman teases the boy even more. At this moment, the young man no longer knows what is right or wrong and is paralyzed by what is happening. Having no patience for those little games, Chang Ting complains, telling the woman to just spit out what's going on already. Before anything else, she introduces herself as the Scorpion Woman belonging to the 12 Celestial Stars, a mysterious group of mercenaries. That gorilla who attacked you is one of ours, she says with an evil smile. Realizing that this could be some kind of revenge, Takedo draws his weapon and threatens that damned woman. Calming down Ting's frightened friend, a woman says her real intention is to make them an offer. Before Chang Ting ruins everything, she touches her lips to signal him to stay quiet. According to her, her captain gave clear orders that if he interferes too much, she can kill him, so it's better for him to stay silent. But Takedo is not afraid of that threat. After all, she is just one, and they are two. However, at that exact moment, something very strange starts happening to the young man. His head seems to throb in a weird way, the pain becomes unbearable, and he ends up collapsing to the ground. A terrible magic emerges on the young man's body, who feels something different and green taking over him. Ting watches all of this very alert as he has no idea what is happening, while the young man kneels before the Scorpion Woman with a deep headache that won't go away at all. Realizing she is in control of the situation, the woman starts throwing a series of nasty jokes at the young man. Now it's time for her to get the answer she has been wanting to hear. However, both he and his friend are in a complete state of despair. At that moment, a voice echoes from the back of the room, and it seems they are looking for the Scorpion Woman. Then 4 new characters enter our story, and apparently, one of them is quite bald. Not knowing how to react, the woman simply shouts a terrible curse word out of desperation. Not knowing what the hell is going on, our protagonist takes the opportunity to interrogate the woman, who explains who they are. That old bald guy calls her an old witch and seems very happy to have finally found the sorceress. But at this moment, our hero doesn't quite understand who these people are and what they want there. To sum up the story, they are a team that is constantly in conflict with her, and to make matters worse, she castrated that bastard. It was at that moment that the young man jumped up and almost choked on that disgusting information. In a puffed up manner, the team of Avengers is there just waiting to attack. Now the bald one seems more aggressive than before and is ready to strike. But our sorceress does not take those insults quietly and starts to further fuel the rage of the Nuthed. It seems he will not rest until he finishes the Scorpion Sorceress and is determined to do so. Conjuring her greenish power, the woman casts a powerful spell before everyone's eyes. At this moment, to gain even more power, she also lifted the curse cast on the 2 boys. Raising all of her strength at that moment, the woman stands before everyone and launches her powerful magic against those fools. This force was so great that it almost took the form of a terrible greenish dragon. But what she did not expect was that the friends also had a certain level of power, and the one holding a bat smiled. Facing the powerful witch's magic, the one holding the bat raised his weapon to defend the others. At that moment, the sorceress fell silent because that was supposed to work immediately, but he just laughed back. Meanwhile, the old bald guy kept spewing threats and insults at the scorpion woman. Things were literally not going as expected for the woman. Continuing the series of attacks, one of the kids unleashed a massive cosmic dust. His attack power was tremendous, and the sorcerer's body flew across the room like a sheet of paper. At the old man's signal to attack, their forces joined together before the sorceress to deliver a massive blow. However, before they could finish their attack, they heard a series of gunshots fired at them. There was our dear Takedo, who, before they could move, made sure to unload his weapon on them. Not only that, but Chang Ting also jumped into the fight and even said that the scorpion woman would owe him a certain favor afterward. At this moment, the team becomes a bit desperate, as they are not sure they will survive the Du's attack. Without further ado, the gang leader declared that it was time to attack. Knowing they could escape, the scorpion woman shouted for the boys to stop them. However, the damned gang knew how to perform a certain type of magic. Before they could see, those bastards quickly and powerfully ran away from there. But at this moment, the sorceress became extremely furious because the two had let them escape. Taking a deep breath, the sorceress says that all of this was her fault. But what made her feel more relaxed was knowing that the two chosen to join the celestial team were still alive. At this moment, with all his malice, our protagonist asks if she doesn't want to hear a proposal. Smiling immediately, she asks if he's suggesting that she should join them. Extending his hand, our hero smiles and confirms that the proposal is exactly that. That answer was so quick that she couldn't even believe what she was hearing. Always taking everything in a naughty way, she asks if they became interested in her. Noticing that she was already better, he asked if she was still injured. However, Takedo is already tired of the sorceress's dirty jokes, but she looks at him smiling, saying that it's natural for a beautiful woman to enchant men. Walking away in a sensual manner, she says they should consider her invitation. It seems that finally our protagonists can focus all their efforts on building their own faction. Now it's time for a good stretch, especially after such a tough fight like that. Realizing that he needs a break, Takedo asks how much time is left before the next monsters appear. Far from there, it seems our characters return to the big city. Walking through the crowd, Takedo seems to warn about a giant building by pointing his finger. A gigantic building catches the young man's attention, and he asks his friend to take a look. Reflecting very carefully on the friend's proposal, our hero thinks for a few moments. Soon after, Takedo pushes Chang Ting toward the large concrete building. Apparently, he really wants to know what it's like inside. Arriving at the place, which is full of police, they notice that there are many young people in the corridors. Before they could say anything, they are surprised by someone. A super elegant man appears and asks if they are there to be registered. Smiling awkwardly, Ting asks if he's talking about their abilities. Apparently, it's not necessary to have great abilities to participate. In fact, these abilities can be acquired. Bowing slightly, the elegant man introduces himself as Ki Ji-Yuan and says he's responsible for Zone 6. That name sounds very familiar to our brave one. Slowly taking off his glasses, the man notices Chang Ting's immediate surprise. Trying to disguise the situation, the young man says that his name just sounds like that of a friend. According to the book, Ting reads, some people possess numerous important abilities. However, there was one among the characters who desired to dominate all other people with abilities. This being was described by the name Ki Ji-Yuan, and during the end of the world, he would be of utmost importance. At the beginning of the story, the young man read, this man had a certain authority, but throughout the journey, he formed a group. At first, this man did not pose much risk, but over time, this changed and he became someone very dangerous. However, the most shocking part of his journey was when the great portal number 6 opened. At the end of the chapter where the man appears, he would have emerged victorious, but that was the true beginning of the end. After the victory in the book, as Ki Ji-Yuan declared himself king for a certain period. However, his fate was already sealed when a certain group of mercenaries decided to attack him. In the end, his journey concluded with a death that would announce a new leader and a new era in history. The protagonist thinks it would be good to have the silver-haired guy on the team. He asks for a tour of the place and says that even without abilities, he wants to protect his nation. The other agrees and asks the heroes to follow him to the office for more information. A henchman in a cap tells the boss that the place is well protected and full of hidden people. The boss calms him down by saying he has only detected 3 ability users in that building. Meanwhile, the blonde villain asks if the target is already in his sights. Elsewhere in the city, there's a building far from the main area. A blonde man with an evil smile confirms and says he is ready to launch the attack. A countdown of 5 minutes begins, with 15 minutes in total to execute the mission. In the middle of the food court, someone shouts the name Roger. At the same time, the heroes are in the office being served tea. Their host comments that it is his favorite tea and smiles as he offers the cups. The protagonist thanks him but declines, saying they don't like tea. Commenting that the two are very cautious, the silver-haired figure decides to get straight to the point. With a serious expression, he asks what exactly they are looking for. Both are confused and do not immediately understand the question. The silver-haired figure states that they must be ability users and did not come to join. The next observation is that the protagonist clearly knows who he is talking to. The boy tries to ease the tension by saying that he just has the same name as a friend. Then comes the revelation that since childhood there has been a special intuition guiding that man. He sees things others don't notice and feels like he is standing before someone familiar. The strange thing is that he himself doesn't know who is in front of him. With a firm gaze, he asks who the visitor is and what he wants there. A strong sense of oppression leaves the boy in shock. Even so, he tries to explain that he understands the suspicion but assures that they are ordinary people. The other man says that there are truths that don't come through words and decides to send them for interrogation. Without warning, the heroes are transported to an unknown place. The silver-haired figure explains that this is a very advanced special device. Not even someone who defeated a level 3 abyssal seed could escape from it. At that moment, the conversation is interrupted by the shield being shattered before their eyes. Scared, he watches the boy, who now stares firmly. Shaking his arm, the young man says that it might be true, but it's still not enough. With a precise strike, he completely destroys the magic shield. Our protagonist admits that he is an ability user, but hopes the other man will believe him anyway. He clarifies that he has no malicious intentions. The silver-haired man thinks that the kid's ability must be physical enhancement, at least level 4 or 5. Concluding, he says that he has no other choice but to believe him because if he wanted to cause harm, there would be no way to stop him. Laughing, the hero asks if he really looks like a bad guy. At that moment, there is a huge explosion behind the three characters. The protagonist quickly turns around, showing nervousness on his face. He and his friend quickly stand back to back to cover their blind spots. The silver-haired man grumbles, looking seriously at the situation. At that moment, he activates a secret device hidden in his clothes. Quickly, the silver-haired man delivers a kick using the device to protect them from the fire of the explosion. We see smoke covering the entire room, leaving the characters without visibility. Revealing himself in the smoke, the silver-haired man thinks that the protagonist has resistance to elemental attacks. Seeing our hero burn, he realizes that the boy is not completely immune to elemental attacks. Everyone becomes tense when they hear over the radio that the place is being attacked by enemies. The boy asks the silver-haired man to believe him this time because he will help him. Thinking, the man responds that the protagonist's eyes don't lie, and he chooses to believe him. The three run out of the room with the silver-haired man guiding them to the lobby on the first floor. We see a building that looks simple, but suddenly several weapons come out of the windows pointing outward. The sniper villain complains about the quick response to the attacks and says he underestimated the enemy, but unfortunately, that alone won't be enough. With an evil smile and his sniper aimed with an energy beam, he says the target is ready and now he will destroy everything. The building is hit by the sniper's energized shots, causing massive destruction. After the shot, the villain informs his boss that he has successfully suppressed the enemies. Ordering his gang to move, the boss commands that they must continue the operation. Meanwhile, an employee exclaims that the building is under attack. We see the villains entering through the door and facing the building's guards. The boss asks if 1 minute is enough for his henchman to deal with them, and the henchman says he only needs 10 seconds. With a smile on his face, the boss starts a countdown. The henchman laughs, saying his boss really is meticulous. The building's ability users say that the villain's actions are considered terrorism and that they should surrender. The villain's countdown now has only 5 seconds left. At that moment, three heroes jump on the henchman. One of them exclaims in surprise, alerting that the villain has disappeared. At that moment, we see that the villain passed through the three heroes, spreading ketchup with his blade. Smiling, the henchman says it was exactly 10 seconds. The guards shout fire and shoot their weapons. At that moment, with some kind of psychic power, the evil boss stops the bullets in midair. A scared guard exclaims that the villain is a monster. Performing an elegant dance, the villain spins the bullets around him. Stopping with a serious look, he makes a gesture, and all the bullets hit the guards. Striking a pose of gratitude, he bows. Now instructing his gang, he says there are 14 minutes left and that they must quickly find the object they are looking for. Staying alert, he hears someone say to be careful. The villain shows a look of shock upon realizing a bullet just a few centimeters from his face. At this moment, we see the protagonist and his two allies entering the scene in full style. The blonde sniper says that the intelligence service was wrong and there seemed to be 2 more ability users than they calculated. After asking to play a little with our heroes, the boss replies not to take too long and the sniper says he understood. Gathering a great amount of power, the sniper declares the switch to explosive ammunition and loads his weapon. The silver-haired man asks who these people are. Laughing, the villain boss says he assumes the silver-haired man is the person in charge of the place. The villain says he will introduce himself and that his name is John West, affiliated with the mercenary corporation Rose Waltz. Worried, the silver-haired man thinks about the name of the mercenary corporation. Our hero thinks in surprise that there is no mention of these mercenaries in the novel and that they probably won't be a famous group in the future. At this moment, the silver-haired man asks who sent them. The villain says that as a professional mercenary, he can't reveal information about his client, and that if he wants to know, he should go to hell and ask the devil. While staring at the villains, the hero's group is surprised by a shot from behind. The protagonist's partner shouts, warning that there's a sniper there. With an incredible move, he quickly draws his gun and fires at the enemy's bullet, deflecting its trajectory. At this moment, we see the two shooting at each other again. With atomic precision, several bullets ricochet, and there is a series of explosions. The sniper villain laughs, saying this is exactly what he expected, and that he wants even more. With an evil smile and holding a special bullet, he challenges the protagonist's friend to withstand it this time. We see the bullet fired, traveling covered by a massive amount of energy. The hero's partner realizes that this bullet is different from the previous ones. Preparing his weapon, he fires, exclaiming that this is his 5th shot. After firing a powerful bullet, we see an explosion with a large amount of smoke. The villain boss says to Josh that he has finally found a worthy opponent. Our blonde guy says that the opponent is an extremely strong sniper and that maybe they should. Not letting his friend finish the sentence, the protagonist exclaims that the opponent is dangerous and in an unknown location. With a serious look, he says they are in a difficult situation and their chance of victory is almost zero. Using an advanced war technique, he commands his friends to flee. Breaking the wall with a flying kick, the hero and the 3 of them escape desperately. The villain boss praises the smart move and the sniper says he has them in his sights. While aiming at our guy's group, he receives the order to focus on the main mission and is denied. Rumbling unhappily, he complains that he can't continue the fight after finding a worthy opponent. Breathing heavily, the protagonist tells his group that this place should be safe for now. He apologizes to the silver-haired man, saying there was no choice but to flee in this situation. And the other surprises him by agreeing with the hero's decision but points out that he underestimated the special agents of his country. Taking the phone from the device on his leg, the silver-haired man calls someone. With a serious face, he says to notify the special forces of ability users and that they must act immediately. Calmly, after the call, he lights a cigarette. In great style, he orders the hero and his group to leave now. The protagonist in his thoughts questions the existence of special forces of ability users. Then we see a scene inside the building where the villain and all his henchmen are immobilized by the special forces. The boss, completely enraged, wonders why his abilities failed. Screaming in anger, he calls the guards monsters. At this moment, the guard helps our friend get a closer look at the floor. With a sarcastic tone, he repeats the villain's words and says with a look of disdain that the only ones who should be called monsters are the villain and his gang. His subordinate informs that they couldn't catch the sniper because he was too cunning. The chief of the special agents says he's just a scared rat running away. While being restrained, the villain complains that this couldn't be happening because he was chosen by the gods and has the talent of a genius. As he is escorted to prison, he keeps repeating the same words, screaming. The silver-haired man arrives with the protagonist and his friend, telling the special agent that he never disappoints. Our boy is introduced to the special agent by the silver-haired man, saying his name is Black Panther. He informs that the agent holds a very special position within the ability user forces, being the captain of the 4th District. The hero thinks back to the past and remembers that this is the Black Panther. He recalls that this was the strongest person in the silver-haired man's mercenary team and that they fought together until the end. With a laugh, the agent offers a cigarette to the young men. Feeling awkward, the 2 politely refuse. Blowing out cigarette smoke enthusiastically, he asks if the protagonist knows him. Our hero says that this is the first time he has met him. In his thoughts, he wonders what kind of monstrous people surround the silver-haired man. Throwing the cigarette on the ground, he steps on it to put it out and says goodbye, stating that he has things to take care of and that they can look for him if needed. Stopping for a moment, he looks back and says seriously to his silver-haired friend that he wants those 2 in his department. His colleague laughs, saying that he is certainly an incredible warrior. Then he asks the young man and his friend if they would like to join them. The protagonist replies that if necessary, he would do his best to help, but he prefers a free and easy life. The silver-haired man understands and says that if one day he changes his mind, he knows where to find him. He says he can't accompany the protagonist and his friend because he has to clean up the mess, so they say their goodbyes. Before leaving, he casually asks, as if confirming whether the next abyss will appear in 4 days, and the boy denies it. At that moment, the hero, extremely shocked, realizes the silver-haired man's trick. While he hides his smile, realizing that the protagonist knows things he shouldn't know about the future. Showing a friendly face, he stays quiet. Now he finally says goodbye, saying that he hopes to meet them in 5 days. We see the 2 walking along the city sidewalk while chatting. Our hero says that the silver-haired man is a monster, and his friend replies by asking if he's not the same as our boy. He wonders if they really are alike. Stopping to think, he reflects whether he is truly the only special one in the world, and that there might be others like him without him knowing. With a pat on the back, his friend motivates him, saying to think about the next abyss that will happen soon and how to proceed. The determined protagonist says that the next abyss will definitely be theirs. He reflects that if he really isn't a unique existence in the world, then he must keep training, get stronger, and survive. We see an area surrounded by police with tape blocking the flow of people. From above, we have a view of the city with a wide street being blocked by the police. After looking with his ability, the blonde friend says it seems hopeless. The hero replies, complaining that it hurts and that he really wants to cry. Suddenly, they hear someone knocking on the door, asking little brother to open it because big sister has arrived. The 2 stop and say they recognize that voice. His friend indignantly asks how that woman found them and what they should do. Knocking harder on the door, she curses the 2 boys, saying that big sister is losing her patience. Suddenly, we see an ability being used on the door and a hand goes through it. Finally, we see the redhead entering with 2 companions. The man with brown hair greets the 2 boys, saying it's been a long time since they last saw each other. Both exclaim in dissatisfaction while looking seriously at the group. At that moment, the brown-haired man gets slapped by the redhead as she orders him to get out of there. With two quite heavy assets in front, she says not to worry because she's there on business. Surprised, the protagonist exclaims, asking if it's really about business. The man in the vest says the boys should already know the other two and then introduces himself, saying he is the captain of the 12 celestial stars, and his name is revealed as Badger. The protagonist's friend bursts into laughter at the guy's name. Badger looks at his subordinate, saying he should have changed his name because now he's being mocked by a kid. The hero, thoughtful, remembers that this guy's name was never mentioned in the novel, meaning he must have been someone who didn't survive the storm. Coughing, the man in the vest says to get straight to the point and that tonight a new abyss will appear, and they should already be aware. He informs that the location of the abyss is being strictly controlled and that the hero must have chosen this place on purpose. The protagonist then asks if they expect help at the next abyss seed. Exclaiming, the man in the vest replies positively. With a serious look, he refuses the proposal. The other man says he hasn't even heard the conditions of the deal, and the protagonist immediately says there's no need because there's no chance of success. He highlights that even if they succeeded, they would receive hostility from the entire 6th district and would be hunted, not only by the 6th district. Explaining that at this moment they would become enemies of the state and that there wouldn't be good enough conditions to negotiate, he states. The man in the vest says the hero is beyond his expectations and that the redhead was completely right in her analysis. His brown-haired subordinate asks if the boy knows the item he's holding and whether it would be enough. Inside the bag, we see two shining crystals, one blue and one yellow. The protagonist's friend looks at them with greedy eyes, asking if those are abyss stones. Reflecting, the hero keeps thinking about the two precious stones. The man in the vest says the stone on the left is for body enhancement and that unfortunately it was incompatible with them. As for the second stone, he says its owner has already made contact with our guy. His blonde friend, looking dumb, asks who that would be and wonders if it's the sniper. Laughing, the man in the vest replies affirmatively to the protagonist. He says that despite the effort to take down the sniper, the result was satisfactory. He informs that both stones are 100% compatible with the hero. With a smile, he asks once again if our boy would consider the deal now. Whispering, his friend asks if, when killing an ability user, their power returns to the stones. The hero replies that only a small number of ability users turn into abyss stones. With enthusiasm, his friend says that opportunities and risks coexist. The protagonist, angry, asks if he's not satisfied with his life and warns that he should be more careful not to end up unliving. Our hero returns to the subject, apologizing and answers the man in the vest that he'll have to refuse the offer. With a sad look, the man complains and is surprised that the two stones didn't tempt the protagonist. The brown-haired man asks, totally surprised, if the boy is really going to refuse that opportunity. Then we see him putting the abyss stone back in the bag. The captain tells the hero that he won't force him, but that the sniper's stone will be considered a gift for him. At this moment, the brown-haired man complains loudly to his captain, but the captain gives him a frightening look. We see the brown-haired man slap himself in the face and say that he will shut up. As the captain's group leaves, he says that in the future, there will be opportunities for them to cooperate again. The protagonist watches the three leaving while thinking. Complaining to the captain, the subordinate says that he can't understand him for giving such a rare gift like the abyss stone. The captain, with a smile, asks what he thinks of their relationship and what kind of relationship he believes exists between the two. Are they just friends, companions, or are they like the captain and his team? The subordinate, completely confused, asks what exactly he means by that. Then the captain retorts, saying that if he had half the brain of the redhead, he would understand and wouldn't spend his salary on drinks. Leaving his subordinate alone, he orders them to move out. The brown-haired man whispers to the redhead, asking what the captain meant by that. Looking at him with contempt, she also turns her back and walks away. Meanwhile, the brown-haired man stays behind, grumbling. The hero's friend asks what their intentions were in giving such a rare gift. He replies that even if there were no good intentions, he should accept it because a compatible stone is extremely rare. Following the hero's advice, his friend immediately absorbs the stone. He looks surprised by the stone's effect as he activates his ability. We see that an enormous power shoots out from his eye, showing that the absorption was a success. The power generated was so strong that it even lit up the outside of the building. Celebrating, his friend says they hit the lottery since his range increased from 2 to 3 kilometers. Revealing his new ability, he says that his target within 500 meters can't hide even behind objects. Along with his weapon, his accuracy is now 100% within his line of sight. Surprised, our boy praises his friend's secondary ability. With a sad look, the hero's friend says they should have accepted the deal because they would have gotten both stones. The protagonist, in his thoughts, says that he can absorb any type of stone but won't reveal this to anyone. They discuss whether they should inform the silver-haired friend about this abyss, but the hero says it's not necessary. Remembering, the blonde friend says that the silver-haired guy is like a monster and gives him chills. Our boy remembers that the 5th abyss will last longer for humans to adapt, and they must take advantage of it, or they'll become weak. Worried, his partner asks how they will recruit members for their team. Thoughtful, the hero remembers the silver-haired man and the redhead, but dismisses both and thinks about another option. The hero remembers that the silver-haired man is like a monster and shivers. Recalling that the fifth abyss will last a long time for humans to adapt, they must take advantage of it or become weak. The protagonist remembers that the silver-haired man is like a monster, dismisses both and thinks about another option, telling himself that he was really dumb for forgetting something so important. He recalls that although this person was mentioned only a few times in the novel, they are so powerful that they eventually joined the 12 constellations. The person who had this ability said they got it in the 6th district at a center for disabled children. While his friend has doubts, the protagonist thinks that this person would be a great asset to add to their team. The hero then runs off, saying they should head to a certain place. His friend asks what they are doing there and hopes they haven't walked around for nothing. We see children play in a playground while the two heroes face another man. The man greets the duo and asks why they are there. Returning the greeting, the boy says he heard about that organization and is there to make investments. Happily, the man welcomes them and introduces himself as Zhu Fei, the director of that organization. He invites the hero duo to talk inside the complex. Suddenly, we see someone calling the director's name, saying it's time to pay because a month has passed. We then see a gang of delinquents entering the place laughing. Not knowing how to contain the shame, the director apologizes and says he will deal with this first. Politely, the director calls the other man Boss Zhang and asks for a few more days because he will secure some investment. The man says they had the same conversation last month and the director begs for just one more chance. Assaulting the director in fury, the man says he must pay the debt with money or with the land. The director expresses extreme anger while hiding his face. Showing a sad face, he begs for just one more chance. The villain says that this is a great place to build a resort and that from this day forward, it belongs to him. Ordering his goons to take care of all the kids in the playground, the villain shouts. Furious, the director exclaims that Boss Zhang has gone too far. The hero duo discusses whether they should help. The villain urges his gang to solve this problem quickly. Standing in their way, the director says they've gone far enough and that he will pay the debt. With an evil look, the boss says he hoped he would never pay and that he planned this from the beginning. With contempt in his eyes, he says he doesn't care about disabled children and that they are a burden in his life. The director tells Boss Zhang not to force him to take action. With a sarcastic tone, the villain asks what exactly he's going to do to stop them. The man's face instantly turns dark while he says nothing. Soon after, we see an activated black mist ability with a large demon figure appearing behind him. The villain boss instantly collapses in fear of the demonic figure. His henchmen become worried about the boss's condition. One of them shouts that their leader is having a seizure and they must take him to the hospital immediately. Whispering to the protagonist, we see his friend with a worried look as the villains flee from the conflict. With a smile on his face, the hero simply observes the situation. Inside, the director apologizes for letting them witness that situation and offers water. Our boy asks how long he has had that ability. The director pretends not to understand and asks what he's talking about, acting clueless. Countering the question, the hero says that the world has changed and believes the director knows that better than anyone. He explains that their world has become a playground for the Abyss Seed, while the director says nothing. And he continues the explanation, saying that over time the world will undergo changes and its rules will as well. Our boy says that the man has a very powerful ability and that he thinks he could protect the organization and the children. But he warns him that clearly it's impossible. He says not to doubt it because the power of a single person ends up being extremely limited. More and more people are gaining abilities from the Abyss Seed and becoming stronger, and protecting the children alone is impossible. The director, angry, exclaims what exactly he means and what his purpose is for being there. Trying again, he says he will formally introduce himself. The hero then states his name and his friend's name to the principal, and explains that they are there today to recruit him for their team. With astonishment, the principal asks if they are from a government agency. Denying it, the protagonist says they have no affiliation and that he can think of them as a small mercenary group. The principal becomes concerned about the frequent exposure to danger and the involvement of the children. Our hero nods positively, saying that this is how it will be. While the principal refuses, the other interrupts, saying that despite the exposure to danger, he will receive more protection and resources. Telling him to think about it more, and that once laws lose their power, the world will be controlled by ability users. Staring seriously, the young man asks how he intends to deal with that. Our guide cites the example of Chief Zhang and that the principal used his ability, but asks what would happen against someone stronger. The principal, at a loss for words, is unable to respond. The hero says that if he wants to protect the children, he must join their group because he promises that as long as he lives, he will protect them both. Thoughtful, the principal keeps repeating to himself about what he should do. Our guide tells him not to rush and to take as much time as he needs to consider the proposal. We then see the duo of heroes leaving the establishment. His partner praises him for his good words and asks what ability the principal has. The kid responds that it's one of the scariest abilities, called Nightmare. His friend stares and repeats the name of the ability with doubt. Our protagonist says that it is a very special ability that can drag someone into a world created by the user upon making eye contact, explaining that the stronger the user, the stronger the nightmare becomes, and any damage taken within the nightmare reflects on the real body. The blonde friend is surprised and asks if that ability isn't invincible. Our hero says it can indeed be considered one of the strongest, but there's a major flaw. The user must make eye contact with the target to activate it. Not only that, but if the opponent has mental strength that surpasses the user's, they can retaliate. The protagonist's friend then reflects, saying that the ability is powerful, but has great risks and can be used against the owner. His phone rings and he quickly grabs it to answer. He exclaims that this is great because it was fast, informing our hero that their secret base is ready ahead of schedule. The principal suddenly exits the building and surprises the two with his presence. With a smile, the young man says he seems to have made a decision. With great conviction, the principal says that the young man is right and that the world has changed, therefore he will join them to protect the children. Extending his hand, the hero says he will keep his promise. Finally, the two shake hands and seal an agreement. Casually, the principal asks what the name of the mercenary group would be, and the blonde friend says they haven't chosen one yet. The protagonist thinks about what they could be called. With a smile on his face, he seems to have made a decision, saying that now the group's name is Foreseer, meaning the one who sees beyond like a seer. Passing through the mountains, we see the hero duo driving a car. In the back of the car, the children ask the principal if they are arriving soon, if there will be new toys, and that they are hungry. With a smile, the principal replies that they are almost there while handing out food. We see the pickup truck stopping as it arrives at the location. Turning to the front, the principal asks the protagonist if they've arrived. We then observe a mansion protected with barbed wire and a beautiful fountain in the center. In the distance, we see a house that looks very large with a very beautiful and well-maintained yard around it. The blonde's eyes even sparkle with happiness at the new base. The joyful children run ahead while the principal yells for them to slow down. An old man arrives to greet the hero and his group. The blonde praises the second uncle, saying he did an excellent job. But he says to remember to keep this a secret because the captain is still not a good person. He asks the second uncle why he is sweating so much and says he's getting too old to take care of himself. The hero looks suspiciously at the old man while he trembles. Suddenly, we hear him shout for everyone to stop immediately. The principal, with the children around, worriedly asks what is happening. His friend asks the protagonist what's wrong with a worried expression. Our guy then asks the second uncle if he's not going to say anything, while his friend looks outraged. Falling to his knees, the old man starts crying and apologizing, saying it wasn't his fault and that he was forced. The protagonist opens a dimensional space to retrieve his weapon from there, while the blonde is already prepared. Then a noise comes from inside the mansion. We see that someone is opening the door at this moment. With tense expressions, the duo of heroes watches closely. We see a booth stepping out as footsteps are heard. A woman with pink hair and a very voluptuous figure appears, recognized as Mu-Kyu. She says that just as she thought, the protagonist used the money to form his group and that the base has a good location. The hero scolds her, telling her not to do this again. Retorting, she says that he has his own mercenary group and still gets scared of others. The blonde complains, saying he almost accidentally shot her. Pointing to the side, the beautiful woman asks if this is a new member. The protagonist then introduces the principal to his friend. She says not bad, since now their mercenary group has 4 members. Dragging the hero inside, the woman says they should talk more. With a shocked face, his friend asks what's going on, and he doesn't know how to answer. The principal desperately tries to control the children who are running and playing inside the mansion. The pink-haired woman tells the protagonist to follow her as she will show him the operations room. We see a half-open door with a bright light coming from inside. Suddenly, a room with a huge screen is revealed, and the blonde is amazed by the second uncle's work. The woman says that actually she arranged this and that they should consider it a rental, so they'll have to pay her later. The boy then asks what all this means. The pink-haired woman says she thought about everything and that following the family rules isn't fun and is too restrictive, so she joined the hero. With her very voluptuous figure, she says that from now on all expenses will be on her and the group can rest assured. The blonde friend begs to let Mu-Kyu join the group because she has a lot of potential. Our hero thinks it would be good to have access to weapons and resources, and besides, she's an excellent user, but her status could become a problem. The blonde then asks why the boy is hesitating. At that moment, we see Mu-Kyu staring seriously. She says that since there was no answer, she will consider it a yes. Calling the protagonist captain, she says she's under his care now while the blonde partner begs for him to accept her. The hero just chuckles and then greets the pink-haired girl, welcoming her to the group. She comments about the group's name, saying she expected something that sounded more invincible boy. Surprised, our boy asks if the name is too cliché. The rich girl then invites the two to show them something that will definitely surprise them. Meanwhile, the principal takes care of the children, saying they are so happy that it's hard to catch them all. Mu-Kyu says the children are cute and that now she'll need a support team to take care of them and asks to leave that matter to her. The principal gratefully thanks her for the help. Proudly, she says that as vice captain, that's her job, and he thanks her again. Bowen asks the group to wait a moment while she takes care of the children, and then will return to show them the surprise. The protagonist finds his friend's reactions strange since they seem very comfortable with the situation. Arriving at a certain location, we see a large door behind the pink-haired girl. She then asks the 3 guys if they are ready. Winking, she says that due to the time frame, she couldn't implement all the upgrades and will use the remote control. Telling them not to worry about the details, she presses a button and slowly a door opens, revealing a bright light. Anxious about what's coming, the 3 watch closely. We are shown a room with various technological items, including a gym and several pieces of exercise equipment. The blonde, impressed, asks if this will be their training area. Looking back, the protagonist asks what that was. Observing carefully, his friend responds that it looked like the equipment the silver-haired man used. The rich woman reveals that it's a state-of-the-art exoskeleton, and that even an ordinary soldier can rival an ability user with it. She says the suit can enhance strength and speed, and the next generation, which will be even better, will also be delivered to them firsthand. The blonde is impressed and bows as if worshipping a goddess. Annoyed, she says that the ability user inhibitor is a state secret, and unfortunately, she couldn't obtain it yet. The protagonist recalls the scene where the special agents neutralized the villains who suddenly couldn't use their abilities anymore. At this initial stage, she thinks it's good against ability users, but after level 10, it won't make much difference. With a curious look, a blonde friend asks what that was. Desperate, the pink-haired woman tells him not to touch it. Then we see the blonde with a silly face accidentally bump into the button. At that moment, a projectile flies right past his head. The projectile almost hits the principal, who gets startled. Outraged, the blonde exclaims that it scared him a lot. The woman explains that it was a shooting simulator and is used to train reaction time. The principal thinks they don't seem very professional and wonders if it's too late to back out of the group. Calling the hero "Dear Captain," the woman asks if she should hire a professional instructor to train them. He then asks if she's talking about Uncle Bai. She says no, and that the person she has in mind is Uncle Bai's instructor, who could be considered her family's instructor. Our protagonist asks if he's trustworthy and if he's going to cause problems. Proudly, she says that he's absolutely trustworthy, besides being her godfather, and has been retired for years. The hero agrees and says he will count on him, and she happily says she will call him. While the three wait, we see the woman on the phone talking to someone. Giving an signal, she says he'll be there tomorrow and that they should rest well because the training will be tough. The blonde, scared, asks about the tough training, already thinking about bad things. On his knees on the ground, he exclaims sadly. The days pass, and we see the mansion from the outside. Then we see someone arriving in a wheelchair while the woman is furious. An old man named Mu Ren Sin greets the youngsters. The three discuss whether that old man could really train them since he looks like he has a broken arm. Angrily, the woman asks what happened to him and if he secretly went fishing again. The old man justifies that he only has this hobby, but then his wife caught him red-handed and he ended up falling into a pit. Confidently, the old man says that to train them, he only needs one leg and one arm. That way, he won't hurt them. Asking if he isn't being a bit arrogant, the three argue that the world isn't the same anymore with unusual humans around. The woman says her grandfather has a point and warns the young ones not to be fooled because he really could take them down easily. The blonde, mocking, says he doesn't believe it. Laughing, the old man replies that kids are getting way too cocky these days. Then the old man invites the youngsters to exchange experiences and he will teach them a lesson. The blonde confidently says that although his focus isn't physical strength, his abilities are better than those of an ordinary person, and asks if the old man really wants to go through with this. Provoking, the old man tells him to hit him. We see the blonde charging his fist with energy. In the next scene, he just lightly taps the old man's arm with his finger. Very irritated, the old man yells that he should hit him for real, and the woman encourages it. Cracking his knuckles, the blonde asks if he can really hit for real, and the old man confirms. Telling the old man to be careful, he delivers a quick punch. At that moment, we see his eyes bulge as he takes a precise strike with just one finger from the old man. Rolling on the ground and screaming in pain, the blonde says the old man has no honor and set a trap for him. Picking his nose like it's nothing, the old man says his speed is way too slow. The protagonist, with a smirk on his face, says it's his turn now. Our hero says his ability is physical enhancement, so he will first use 10% of his power to avoid accidentally hurting him. We see the boy charging his wrist with energy. At the moment he's about to throw the punch, the young man is stopped by just 2 fingers from the old man. Looking at his hand while trembling, our boy doesn't understand what just happened. The old man shouts for him to continue. More determined, the hero says he will now use 30% of his strength. Once again, the old man stops him with just one movement. Without saying a word, the protagonist keeps trembling after being stopped again. Then the old man praises his firm stance and says he truly deserves his abilities. The blonde tells his friend not to hold back because the old man is so strong that he's still feeling the pain. With determination, the protagonist says he will now go with 100% of his power. Confidently, the hero charges forward with a powerful punch. Nimbly, the old man makes 3 movements with his finger while sitting in the wheelchair. Our boy, disoriented, says that his arm is numb. With a pain expression, he asks if that old man is really a normal person. Suddenly, we hear someone screaming in pain. Then it is revealed that the old man is holding his hand, throbbing in pain, asking if the protagonist really couldn't hold back a little. Shaking his arms, the hero asks the old man what kind of ability that was. With surprise in his eyes, the old man wonders if the young man has already recovered, saying that he is incredible. The old man asks if he is convinced of his abilities now, and the boy praises the old man a lot. The pink-haired woman says that her grandfather is incredible, just as she told them, and that when he was still on duty, he was. At that moment, the old man coughs, interrupting his granddaughter. Impressed with his ability, the blonde says that the old man should teach them right away. The old man says that this is his unique ability and that it's hard to fully understand, but it will be useful. He says it's a technique that precisely targets pressure points, immobilizing opponents, being great for close combat. And he points out that mastering this skill significantly increases the survival and victory rate. The hero says they are counting on the grandfather from now on. Everyone salutes the old man, showing respect. He responds by saying that the special training from now on will be extremely difficult. And with a grim expression, he says that they should start now. We see the fighting octagon where the sounds of blows are heard. In a fighting scene, we see everyone charging toward the old man, who is in a wheelchair. Looking around and skillfully moving the wheelchair, the old man dodges all the attacks. His granddaughter tries to land a punch from the side, but he catches it with the palm of his hand. At this moment, she switches with the protagonist to land another hit. The old man, however, blocks his punch, showing effort. At this moment, the hero is unleashing a flurry of punches while the old man retreats, defending. A strong knee strike is blocked by the old man's arm. Quickly, he grabs our guide, who groans in pain. With a strong blow, the boy is thrown several meters back and everyone watches. The senior then says that for today, the training ends here. Everyone falls to the ground, extremely exhausted, while asking the woman what's for dinner tonight. Panting, she says to call her vice captain and asks the principal what dinner will be. Feeling sick, the principal says he's almost throwing up and asks the protagonist what dinner will be. With his arm resting on his face, the hero says that dinner will be instant noodles. Stroking his mustache, the old man says that these kids have exceptional talent. Thinking that this specific child has talent for martial arts, but it's a bit slow. At that moment, the phone rings in the hero's pocket. Still tired, he answers the phone. The blonde then asks the protagonist who is on the call. Standing up, the boy calls the three of them, saying that their group will have its first mission. Praising his friend says that the boy is really capable, already starting secret missions. The old man tells them that although they have greatly improved their combatability, there will always be stronger people. After leaving the training area, the old man complains, crying about the pain he feels in his body. Sitting down, the hero's group asks him what the mission will be. With a smile, he reveals that it's a mission given by the silver-haired man. The blonde asks if it's really from him, and the woman asks if it's the officer in charge of the 6th district. With her hand on her chin, she says that if the silver-haired man is asking for help, it might be a dangerous situation. The hero says that he's not sure about the details, and that they should go immediately, because the silver-haired man is already waiting for him. Encouraging, he says for them to go quickly. We then see the headquarters of the 6th district from the outside. An atmosphere of disbelief hangs in the air as the group members are sitting. At this moment, we see the silver-haired man awkwardly begging for help, saying that this is for the honor of the 6th district. The one, very angry, asks if he is mocking them and says that something like this shouldn't be asked of a mercenary group. Changing his expression, he says that they recently suffered losses in the last abyss and they were the only group he trusted. The hero says that as long as it's for him, he'll help, but there's one more condition besides payment. After agreeing, the protagonist says that the condition is that the members of the 12 constellations be brought in. The silver-haired man says that this will be difficult and asks if bringing only one would be enough since his real objective is just one person. Our hero says that, as expected, he did his research and thinks that he definitely should get the man into his group. He then says that it's fine, so it's time to talk to that person. We hear someone exclaiming that they should hurry and that they need to move. Someone shouts that the Black Panther will be conducting an interrogation today, so they must not be late. We see a group of soldiers walking in a certain direction. The Black Panther asks if those guys still haven't opened their mouths. His subordinate says that the subjects were professionally trained and haven't revealed any information. Throwing his cigarette on the ground angrily, the boss orders the subordinate to open the door because he will interrogate them personally. The leader then enters a room that was dark. It is revealed to be the group of the red-haired girl. The brown-haired man protests, telling them to release them and face him like a man in a fight. Laughing, the head of the special agents lights his cigarette. Indignant, the brown-haired man punches the glass, saying that he's talking to him. Blowing smoke from his mouth, he says it's fine. Ordering his subordinate to open the door, he tells him to release the man. The guard diligently obeys the order and opens the gate. At that moment, we see the brown-haired man immediately jump, saying he will kill him. The special agent then quickly turns, drawing his weapon. Pointing at the brown-haired man's head, he freezes. Laughing, he asks why the man isn't screaming anymore. Outraged, he replies, asking what kind of man uses a gun and this equipment. With a quick move, the agent throws the man to the ground. Placing his foot on the man's head, the agent says he asked to step outside but didn't say anything about weapons. While being stomped, the man calls him shameless. The man says that he really is shameless, and that he also has a very short temper, and will give him only 3 seconds to tell everything. While pointing the gun at the man's head, he starts counting 1, 2, 3. Time's up. The person who killed you is the captain of the special forces of the 6th district. We see the trigger being pulled. At that moment, someone shouts his name, telling him to stop. The silver-haired man arrives with the hero and his group at the scene while the agent spits out his cigarette. Kicking the other man, he says that he's always interrupted at the most fun part, and says that this way they're going to ruin him as he throws his cigarette to the silver-haired man. With an angry expression, he grabs the cigarette, saying that it disgusts him. With her figure illustrated like a goddess from cartoons, the red-haired girl greets our boy, saying it's a coincidence to meet him here. The agent is also surprised and says it's been a while, and that her group has grown a bit. He asks if the princess hanging out with these people wouldn't upset her father, and she replies that her father approved all of this himself. Scratching his head, the agent tells her to be careful since she is the precious daughter of the Wu family, and if anything happens, he'll suffer. Turning his face away, he says to send his regards to her master. The blonde asks if they are talking about the old man, and she says that the Black Panther was one of his worst students. Caught off guard, he looks embarrassed for being called the worst student. The silver-haired man calls the red-haired girl's group as we are blessed with a beautiful view. Walking toward the hero, she affectionately calls him. Holding his hand and placing it between her two airbags, she says she knew he wouldn't abandon her. Our protagonist blushes completely, not knowing how to respond. Angrily, the pink-haired princess slaps the redhead's hand and says to speak if she wants but not to touch. The redhead says it's no wonder he's cold to her now that he has a little girlfriend. The hero quickly responds that she is just his ally, while the pink-haired girl yells that she's the vice captain. The redhead walks away saying it's fine, leaving the other one furious. Striking a seductive pose with her beautiful body, she says she's leaving and calls her companions. They are left perplexed by the redhead's shamelessness. At this moment, we see our boys' group sitting with the redhead and the silver-haired man. Then the princess asks if he's okay with all this. The redhead confidently says that her abilities aren't weak and that she will help the group, while the pink-haired girl agrees. But whispering to the protagonist, she asks if the redhead is trustworthy, and he replies affirmatively. Annoyed, the pink-haired woman says that he's blinded by the redhead's beauty. The silver-haired man says that the people from Zone 1 are arriving tomorrow and that today they should rest and adjust because he has prepared a place for everyone. With a serious expression, he says that he will be counting on everyone's help tomorrow. The boy says not to worry because he will do his best. Lovingly holding his hand, the redhead asks what the mission is since she doesn't know, while the princess looks upset. Embarrassed, he says that they are in charge of representing Zone 6 and competing against the ability users from Zone 1. Not understanding, the redhead asks if the two zones aren't official organizations and why they should compete, and if there are no ability users in Zone 6. Trying to cover it up, she says that the users from Zone 6 are indeed weak, and the princess says that she has no shame in admitting that. The hero explains that since both zones are official, they decided to have a peaceful competition to lead the next abyss. The redhead asks what the benefit would be if they win. The protagonist says that in the next abyss, if there are more than 2 abyss seeds, half of the abyss stones will be theirs. If there are more than 2 abyss seeds, half of the stones will be theirs, and if there is an odd number, they will get an extra bonus. In his thoughts, he says that in the next abyss, there will be a total of 6 stones, and they will be able to operate with more freedom. With a sparkle in her eyes, the beautiful redhead says that her captain is truly incredible. The pink-haired woman does the same, praising the protagonist, leaving him embarrassed. He just laughs while the two stare at each other challengingly. The hero says that tomorrow will be the first battle of their mercenary group and that they must do it spectacularly. Everyone responds energetically with affirmation. From outside, we see the building of the 6th District Organization. At that moment, we see a group wearing a uniform. The one who appears to be the leader, smoking a cigarette, says that the Zone 6 headquarters doesn't look impressive. A silver-haired man greets him, calling him long tall. Rudely, the man rejects his greeting, saying that you will definitely lead the next abyss. The rude man asks if these are the people from Zone 6 because they look like a bunch of rejects and clumsy fools, and that they should give up. Forcibly grabbing the other's hand, the silver-haired man says that they've known each other for 10 years since military academy and that he never lost. Angrily, the man says that back then he couldn't beat him because he had the Black Panther on his side, while he always fought alone, and asks about the silver-haired man, saying that he's an ordinary person and that now he has surpassed him by far. Mocking, the silver-haired man agrees with the provocation and says he hopes the other wins today. Our hero thinks with disapproval if these are the strongest people. The man says this is perfect because both sides have 5 users and should fight one-on-one with victory going to whoever scores 3 wins. Adjusting his glasses, the man says it's a great deal and accepts. Impatiently, the other guy asks what they are waiting for, and the silver-haired man says to follow him. They then arrive at the underground training area of Zone 6. The silver-haired man says that these are the abilities of the enemy team, holding a piece of paper. Our hero praises him, saying he expected no less. Laughing, the man says one must know oneself and the enemy in order to always win. The blonde rival asks if they are still coming up with strategies and who will be the first to fight. Our boy commands the principal to go first while he wonders if he should. He informs the principal that the opponent creates illusions and that he should counter it with nightmare, so it should be easy for him to win. Provoking the principal, the opponent asks if he's ready and the man dictates the rules, saying that killing is not allowed. The principal gets scared seeing the man abruptly using his ability. Arrogantly, the man says that the winner was already decided the moment the principal looked into the opponent's eyes. The woman from his team, scared, says something seems wrong while he keeps watching. Calling out to his subordinate, the man yells, asking what's wrong with him. Suddenly, he falls to his knees, screaming in agonizing pain. Crying, he desperately screams for them not to come near him and not to kill him, begging them to stay away. At that moment, reflected in his eyes, we see a hellhound. In the next scene, it is revealed a demon commanding the hellhounds while the opponent screams for help. The hounds then attack and bite the man all over. In an instant, the demon strikes the enemy's chest with its claw. The only thing he can do is scream desperately in pain. Rubbing his face, the principal says that it really was an easy victory. The arrogant guy says that after all these years, the silver-haired man is despicable for having investigated his targets. With anger in his eyes, he calls another subordinate, saying that he is next. Meanwhile, in the protagonist's crew, everyone praises the principal. The silver-haired man is surprised that the principal's ability is also mental type and much stronger than the opponent's. At this moment, we see the other enemy staring at our boy. In his thoughts, the hero says that this is the strongest user from District 1 and his ability must be physical. Pointing at the opponent, he says that he will be his opponent. The man says that no matter how much they investigate, they won't figure out the ability of his strongest member. Promptly, the hero and the opponent enter into combat. Surprised by knocking him down with a punch, the protagonist asks if he is really that weak. The blonde friend praises him while the redhead thinks that this could cause some problems for her little brother. The leaders of the two districts stare at each other at that moment. Rolling on the ground, the opponent calls the boy to fight again. Wasting no time, he already comes in with a flying kick. Hitting the opponent, we see that he took a strong blow and goes flying from the force of that kick. Immediately, the guy gets up as if nothing happened, scaring the hero. The protagonist asks if this was an illusion and realizes he's getting weaker since that kick should have incapacitated the enemy. He charges forward with a barrage of punches. We see that the enemy is blocking all of our guys' attacks. Surprised, our boy is left breathless after all this. His blonde friend tells him to stop playing around, and the redhead asks if they notice that the other side is getting stronger. The silver-haired man says that the opponent isn't getting stronger, but rather the hero is getting weaker. The two opponents are still exchanging blows. Preparing, the opponent says that after all this time, it's his turn to act. Cracking the ground with a powerful stomp, he charges at the boy. Our protagonist dodges narrowly, taking a grazing hit. We see a series of punches being thrown while the boy dodges with difficulty. Provoking, the man asks if all he knows is dodging and where all that strength from the beginning went. The protagonist loses his reaction and takes a hit to the stomach. Our hero realizes that his strength keeps diminishing and that the opponent's ability works like theft. Each touch transfers strength. In his thoughts, the silver-haired man says that things are going badly and that this ability nullifies the protagonist. So he asks our guy to give up the battle. The leader of the first division excitedly asks the boy to listen to the advice and give up because there's no chance of victory, revealing that, as they must have noticed, his ability is theft, and with each exchange, he steals 10% of the opponent's strength. Confident, he says that now there's no chance for the hero to win. The worried friend asks him to give up and think about his safety. While the boy admits that this really is his nemesis, he draws a weapon from his inventory and says that even so, victory will be his. Surprised, the enemy then says that using a weapon is a good strategy, but not in his current state. The protagonist challenges him, and in his thoughts, he says that the god Hunter's sword can enhance his physical abilities to another level. Provoking our guy, the opponent calls him to fight. In just a moment, the hero unleashes a series of slashes, surprising the opponent. In the middle of the slashes, a precise punch is thrown. We then see that the opponent is launched far away, caught off guard. Mocking, the boy says that apparently his captain didn't teach him not to underestimate the enemy. Rubbing his face, the opponent says he didn't expect all this strength and speed, but that it won't be enough. The redhead, worried, asks when our boy will learn and questions her companions about why they aren't worried too. Her blonde partner answers while pointing, saying that the reason is because the winner has already been decided. The leader of Zone 1 asks if it's because the weapon is poisoned, so they think that because of this, the victory is guaranteed. He shouts at his subordinate to finish this fight already. Charging forward, the enemy says that despite the poison, it won't change the outcome because his strength will dissipate the toxins. With an evil look, he charges at the hero and mocks, saying that now our boy is no different from a child. Preparing a punch, he says that it's all over. At that exact moment, the protagonist prepares himself and says that now is the right time. Unleashing a series of blows, the hero hits the opponent's arm precisely. The opponent is surprised without knowing what happened and does not understand the situation. Then we see the kid crossing to the other side with a quick movement. After everything that has been happening, this guy has the audacity to challenge our hero to a one-on-one fight. Staring firmly at what's happening, that daring duo is carefully analyzing the situation. However, according to the captain, something seems to be completely off. Quickly, the leader says he is feeling something different in the environment, something very strange. Staring firmly at the face of that villain, he uses his special vision to analyze it carefully. At that moment, a few drops of his red juice start to spread across the floor of the place. Shouting immediately at Wang, the captain gives expressive orders for him to end the game. Right at that moment, the fighter seems to wake up to the fight and tries to strike our protagonist. Standing still like a statue, Chang takes a deep breath and waits for the rascal to land the first blow. However, Without needing to do anything, he simply states that Guy is a lost man. Throwing himself to the ground immediately, the fighter begins to feel something terrible taking over his entire body. Not understanding what is happening, he tries to ask himself what must be going on with his body. His entire team is completely surprised since Wang is a very strong warrior who possesses a lot of battle energy. Grumbling more and more, the captain warns that Idiot is losing too much strawberry juice and was not prepared enough for the battle. With all this presence, Chung states that team is not enough to stop his real power. Immediately, Wang's partners try at all costs to restore his battle abilities. Taking a deep breath, that warrior slowly tries to recover his energy and fighting skills. Before heading into the fight, the thug apologizes to his captain, who seems not at all pleased with what he is seeing. Firmly holding his cigarette, the man stops for a moment and begins to deeply reflect on everything that is happening. Before they decide anything, they hear a real scream from someone who is ready for combat. Throwing her uniform into the air, she runs to the center of the ring and gets ready to face her opponent. Now we see that the warrior is truly ready for the attack, and by her evil smile, she will do anything to win. Desperate at what he is seeing, young Takedo states that she is absurdly strong for the fight. Mumbling something, the woman tells them to try to calm down. Grabbing his brochure, our warrior carefully analyzes that Xiao Ying's ability is astral projection. It seems that this time our hero is really worried about the outcome of the fight and does not know if he will manage to succeed. However, Takedo tries to cheer his friend up, stating that his girls would easily outclass that filthy one. It appears that Chang has a real fear of this power and asks his colleagues not to have any kind of expectation. Throwing herself against the young man, the warrior Xiao Ying prepares to use her greatest ability. Taking a deep breath, Chang carefully analyzes what to do before making any foolish mistake at that moment. Takedo jumps in front of his friend and asks if she can project herself with great force. Still afraid, our hero complains that if she wants to, she will be able to perform any kind of projection. Remembering what he read in the story, the boy reflects that at a certain moment, her power was able to conjure a terrible nuclear bomb. But Xiao Ying is tired of all that waiting and decides to challenge her warriors to a true fight. With no patience for jokes, he gets increasingly inflamed with anger. At that very moment, someone bursts into the room running, and it seems to be something really serious. Speaking very quietly into someone's ear, we realize that some kind of side gossip is going on. Running over to Chi Ji Yuan, the captain asks what is going on at that moment. At this point, the competition will need to be concluded more than immediately. Apparently, by higher powers, the news has arrived that everything must stop because something terrible has happened. Not believing what he is hearing, the captain becomes very angry with what he is hearing. Positioned for whatever may come, our squad tries to understand what is happening at that moment. Who could this VIP be that is causing all this confusion? It seems to be someone terrible and very important who is controlling this entire situation. However, she does not accept the excuse and starts confronting everyone. Her anger grows and she becomes thirsty for answers. Getting close to Chang, he advises the boy to stay calm and not take any action. But if he really wants to, he can go ahead. Without further delay, the fights are concluded and the teams are once again divided in the middle of the arena. Thinking very carefully about what he will do next, Chang keeps analyzing that damn situation. Far from there, we see that it is already night in the 6th district. Standing up in front of everyone present, Takedo states that it is time for Chang Ting to take action. Giving his slight confident smile, Chang confirms that it is indeed time to act. Quickly, that conversation is interrupted by someone knocking on the door. When the young man opens the door, his eyes widen as he realizes it could be that moment. Very serious, the woman confirms without much delay that it is her. Entering without permission, she states that for the next challenge, she will be with that team that seems to have a good spirit. Takedo points in the woman's face, asking if she wasn't from the 1st district. However, the girl, realizing that conversation, states that they have no interest in conquering the next abyssal. Confirming with the girl, Chang affirms that they have no interest in this stupid competition. For her, it is much better to stop with this talk, and she states she does not belong to the 1st district. Desperate with what they hear, they are left speechless. Continuing her explanation, the woman states that she is there only temporarily on a mission. At this moment, we realize that both Xiao Ying and the other woman are part of a mercenary group. Regardless of anything, her only desire with all of this is to obtain the seeds and a lot of parallel power. If they are willing to contribute with that woman, they could be very useful in the next battle in pursuit of peace. Extending her hand in front of young Chang, the woman tries to seal a new partnership between them. Before making a decision, our hero thinks that if what she is saying is true, everything changes perspective. All the information they need about that subject is right in their hands, and they just need to see it. If Chang is truly willing to cooperate, he just needs to look at the information contained in that device. However, they need them to make the right decision as quickly as possible. After leaving the quarters, the two start talking about whether that was really a good decision. However, for Xiao Ying, she is certain that the friends chose what is truly the right thing to do. When the clock was close to striking midnight, the entire squad was near the ruins where everything would happen, making it clear that it will be an important battle. The commander states that he doesn't want any cowards there. The entire squad is properly positioned for the next battle that will happen very soon. However, we notice that one of them is much more excited than the others on his team. Complaining to each other, the duo states that the expectations of cooperation are completely mistaken. After analyzing his abilities, he is indeed very prepared for the next fight. However, it is necessary to include in the analysis the military points that are scattered across the battlefield. That is exactly why he ended up infiltrating the exact place where the soldiers were prepared for this battle. Meanwhile, inside the environment, the crowd is anxious, waiting for the monsters to rise from the portal. That bunch of lunatics is truly desperate with what's about to happen at that moment. However, the leader of the group states that the youngsters possess the exact skills to destroy the monster that appears at that moment. At that moment, the leader is extremely assertive in saying that they should not kill a monster because he wants the power. Realizing that one of the guys tried to back out of the plan, he immediately delivers a terrible slap to his face. After being assaulted, the rascal promises blind obedience to his master. Now they just need the right moment for the portal to open, and from there emerge the terrible creatures of the abyss. When midnight finally arrived, the portal exploded and from it came a terrible energy in the form of fire. With no expectations of how things would unfold, everyone stared with shining eyes. From the middle of those terrible shadows, strange and very bizarre beings rose before everyone, thirsty for human flesh. Desperate with what they were seeing, they realized that from there emerged 6 terrible abyssal seeds. It is necessary to maintain their original formation before the creatures begin to unleash their dreadful attacks. Conjuring countless spells onto the ground, that team is preparing for the next battle. Before they could wait, the creatures already start getting into attack positions to face those miserable humans. It is at that moment that the rascal points his finger and shouts for the attack to begin. Several young people begin to unleash surreal attacks against those terrible beasts. Countless radioactive explosions start at that very moment, and the noise becomes deafening. The terrible monsters from the abyss position themselves in attack mode against the warriors. Clapping his hands, that group leader applauds the courage of his group. Now it is time to unleash the second attack against that giant monster. Running towards the attack, the duo is preparing a massive bombardment against the creatures. A terrible magic is conjured, and they prepare for a dreadful attack against the beings. Fearlessly, a huge amount of bullets is unloaded against the terrible monsters. A huge crash starts shaking the structures at that moment, and a series of incredible explosions continues to occur. Desperate with the grandeur of the battle, the fighters start screaming for their lives. With great magnitude, the bombs explode bigger and louder each time. Even more bombs come from that guy who keeps shooting for his life. Mega explosions occur, and everything becomes increasingly destroyed and out of control. From the outside, it is already possible to see that the bombs are reaching increasingly astronomical dimensions, and everything seems to lead to chaos. Our duo of heroes realizes that the battles in search of the seeds are becoming more and more terrifying. However, our protagonist is clear in saying that no one ever said this would be an easy challenge. Quite the opposite. At that moment inside the place, it is possible to see that everyone's face is covered in terrible panic. From within the shadows emerges a truly horrifying creature whose power seems far superior. It's time to take some action because it seems the forces are not managing to face the creature. More and more desperate, those thugs seem unable to believe what is really happening. Uttering a terrible roar, the monster growled in everyone's face. Its roar was so abyssal that it nearly ruptured the eardrums of everyone in that place. No one could stand that scream anymore, and the pain only seemed to grow more and more. When the first eardrum exploded, it was terrible, and red goo splattered everywhere. Their ears were killing them, and the entire squad ended up throwing themselves to the ground due to the overwhelming pain that surpassed anything ever seen. Before their heads exploded, they cried for mercy, and it was time to use their secret weapon. At that moment, the girl who had the ability to restore energy began saving her friends. However, at the same time, a fearsome creature with sharp teeth lunged at the gang. Explosions burst in an abyssal manner at that moment. With eyes completely overtaken by fear, the group leader feels that something very strange is happening. Falling to the ground at that moment, he begs for mercy and decides to give up the powers he would receive from the battle. Meanwhile, the battle continues in an indescribable way. Fast laser beams fly through the space as they try to save their lives. We see that as she runs, a terrifying vision seems to be watching her. A terrible fish monster appears in the middle of them. Letting out its fearsome roar, that abyssal being is ready to destroy all life on Earth. Meanwhile, the leader's eyes now seem increasingly red and ready for an explosion. Desperate and seeing that his end is near, he begins to cry out for his life. It seems that not everyone is fighting, and some are trying to escape from that terrifying situation. Trying to bargain with the creatures, that fool attempts to convince them to devour his friends. Everyone is completely terrified by what they are seeing, and it is truly something horrifying. More creatures emerge from the abyss, and it is no longer possible to do anything to stop those damn things. Outside, our duo tries to understand what is really happening in there because everything is eerily quiet. Desperate with everything that is happening, Chang reveals that he is truly scared of everything going on. Staring firmly in the war zone, the captain tries to think of a strategy. Before the problem gets even worse, he asks the soldiers to follow his orders. Little by little, everyone decides to enter the place where the fearsome beings are wreaking havoc. However, his vision almost collapses when he realizes what is really happening. Before he can give his second order, he is completely shocked by the horrifying scene he witnesses upon entering. Several bodies are lying on the ground, and the smell of rotten carrion spreads throughout the environment. We realize that the madman has truly gone insane this time. Not understanding what is happening, the captain of the force asks where the abyssal monsters are. Chang does not wait for orders and asks his friend to spread an ice wall. In seconds, the young girl manages to build a powerful barrier made of ice, and the creature approaches to attack them. Before anything else, our hero cries out for everyone to run immediately. It doesn't seem like a difficult request, and immediately the team, in desperation, starts running to save their lives. Our group is ready for combat, but the monsters are more terrifying than anything they have ever seen before. Chang is getting more and more irritated with all that crap and is determined to do something. Our scorpion sorceress also seems to share that hatred in her veins. Realizing that things are getting serious, Xiaoying's friend asks her for help. Not knowing how to proceed, Takedo asks Chang if they are going to keep fighting or run away as well. Trying to calm his friend, Chang is thinking about what would be the best course of action at that moment, until he clearly decides to draw his powerful weapon and go on the attack. Our powerful squad gets into formation to attack those damned creatures. From the outside, we can see that there are some people staring firmly at everything that is happening. Those scoundrels are watching very closely everything that is happening and seem ready to do something evil. Soon we realize that they also really want to steal the abyssal seeds. Ji seems to be a sneaky assassin who needs those seeds to take revenge. However, it also seems that others are eyeing those abyssal seeds. Stretching well, Ji is ready to retrieve the first seed. With his wicked smile, he has high hopes of gaining these new powers. Inside, the girl is unleashing all her strength to destroy those damned monsters. Conjuring her attack power, she launches terrible blows against the abyssal beings. Scorpiana doesn't stay out of it and also uses all of her green magic to launch terrible attacks against those dreadful beasts. Meanwhile, Takedo unloads his magic pistol toward those bastards. First, that fish-faced, big-eyed one gets a terrible shock to the body. Shouting to his friend, Chang urges her to finish that bastard once and for all. Gathering all her strength with the fire element, the girl manages to form a flaming spear to launch at the creature. Without thinking twice, she fires that quick and powerful strike at the creature's eye, which starts trembling. Meanwhile, Chang prepares to release a terrible blow to finish that filthy creature from hell. Smashing the monster's face with his punch, the boy vents all his anger in that moment. However, the other monsters are watching all that and starting to react. A lot of power is released at this moment, and the monsters are enveloped in magic and attacks from all possible elements. While everything seems to turn green in front of them, the fearsome monsters try to rise to plan a real attack against the kids. A lot of smoke fills the environment, and it seems there are still monsters ready to attack. At this moment, Chang starts to reflect that they are truly powerful for not having been destroyed yet. Xiaoying states that it's time for everyone to protect themselves because something is about to happen. Taking a deep breath, the powerful Master of Powers begins to summon all her grand strength for something even greater. It seems she is really not playing around and will do everything to launch the biggest and most powerful weapon she has ever used. Knowing very well the size of Xiaoying's power, Takedo widens his eyes and prepares for the worst. Arming herself with all her chaotic energy, the warrior is more than ready to cast her attack spell. At this instant, the one who seems to be one of the most powerful of the abyssal monsters starts to rise before everyone. A powerful cosmic energy bursts from the body of our mighty warrior, who immediately releases chaos. Her attack power is much greater than expected and is capable of shaking all the structures of that fortress. From outside the place, the new gang that shows up is completely surprised by what they are seeing. That little doll gets scared and immediately asks her leader if they should take some action. Contradicting all expectations, their leader states that now is still the time to wait a little longer. Inside the place, our Xiao is still recovering from her last attack that drained her strength. Now everyone can see that this woman should never be provoked again because she has the potential to wipe out Earth. Taking a deep breath, young Takedo approaches the place to see if the abyssal creatures are still there. To the surprise of our heroes, some of them are still trying to rise amidst the chaos. Chang shouts for a new round of attacks to begin against those damned filthy beings. One explosion after another begins as we see the creatures being attacked more and more. But the fight continues and our team keeps casting more and more spells against those beings. Chang grabs his special sword and prepares for a new attack. His friend is happy with the result, which this time seems to have been positive. Staring firmly at the creatures, he doesn't celebrate because he feels that something strange is coming from them. Realizing that the group was relaxing, our leader states that the battle must continue. Sakura and Takedo stay on high alert because they thought their adventure was already over. But at this moment, it seems that a terrible metamorphosis occurs where the beings merge to form an even bigger monster. An abominable and indescribable creature begins to emerge before them, something with multiple heads and many teeth. Without understanding what happened, their fight continues because at this moment, Chang already seems to be attacked with great force. Those damn tentacles keep hitting our hero's body, who ends up flying very far at that moment. His loyal ally Takedo is very angry and worried about his life. More and more terrible and dangerous, that monster starts moving in a profane way. Its mouth craves human flesh and will do anything to attack our warriors. Bigger than anything they've ever seen, that creature from the depths was born to spread corruption on planet Earth. Its moan was completely deafening, and not even the scorpion sorceress could endure it. With that slimy tentacle, the thing lunged at Sakura with great force and dexterity. Without thinking twice, our girl touched the ground and from there made a large wall of ice sprout. But the monster did not avoid the attack because of this. On the contrary, it kept pushing forward to catch them. Covered by a layer of ice, our trio tries to survive that fearful, brutal attack. But the creature is clever and will do anything to get what it really wants. Without waiting, Sakura once again casts her protective shield to save everyone. A true colossal fight begins, and the creature now unleashes more tentacles to break the protection. With its grinning mouth, that being is not playing games. Ice crystals are shattered, and we see that the being is much smarter than it looks. However, our Sakura cannot hold on long enough and begins to lose her power. At that instant, the scorpion sorceress unleashes her terrible magic against that being from the depths. Frightened while facing the beast, the sorceress makes sure to warn her friends that it is a terrifyingly strong creature. However, Takedo urges his friend to keep holding that ice wall firm or else it will be her end. With her strength completely drained, Xiao Ying rises from the ground and says she still has the chance to launch one more attack. Summoning her powerful magic, the woman concentrates to deliver a true blow against those monsters. As if sensing that a heavy attack was coming, the monsters already prepare a first wave of attacks. Sakura, seeing a whirlwind approaching, shouts at the other companions. This time, the attack is so powerful that it sends our heroes flying through the air. A grand and powerful tornado starts forming in front of them, and they witness once again the monster's body changing. Everyone jumps in fear upon seeing its sticky tentacles approaching. At that moment, we see Sakura's body almost like a rag doll on the floor, and chaos spreads among her companions. 4 different heads laugh at the situation, and panic seems to please that horrendous being. At that moment, for the first time, we see that the sorceress's strength is gone, and she declares defeat in front of her friends. Even without strength, they try to protect themselves because they know a terrible lethal blow is coming. Preparing a mighty attack, the creature shouts with its fists closed. Takedo cries in despair upon realizing that he had been chosen to receive the fatal blow that annihilates humanity. But it seems it was not this time that the monster managed to end the battle. Completely wounded, Chang tries to stay calm as he rises through the smoke. But the team is divided, and due to the power of the attack, they start thinking that maybe it really is time to retreat. However, Chang Ting now seems much more confident and determined to change humanity's story. At that moment, a grand roar comes from within the creature, trying to terrify everyone. Outside, we see that those scoundrels are trying to benefit somehow from this battle. Meanwhile, the little doll wants to know exactly what Ji is seeing that makes him so interested. Raising his hand, Ji states that it's time for them to enter and claim that abyssal seed. Prepared for combat, Chang Ting unleashes his powerful magic against the creature of darkness. Infinitely bright rays shine as the boy attacks. Remembering how things happened before, he says that the monster is starting to lose its strength. Running through the gaps in the wall, he tries to get closer and closer to the creature. This time, the strikes seem to be truly stronger and more powerful. At that moment, a huge noise took over the environment as that monster screamed in pain. Realizing that he was pouring all this power into it, Chang began to lose his strength. It was at this moment that something very strange happened. Looking apprehensive to see what it was, the young man realizes that something is really happening. Meanwhile, the tentacles start melting immediately. For the glory and salvation of everyone, our esteemed Takedo manages to fire his powerful weapon at the creature. Using her last strength, Sakura casts one more of her ice spells. A true explosion occurs in front of everyone, and due to the impact, Chang ends up jumping away. Fire and ice mix in an attempt to perform a more perfect attack than before. We notice that the creature is really being affected by that powerful magic. A disgusting swamp starts to form, and it seems that this time the terrible beings of darkness are being destroyed. A terrible headache invades Ting's body, who tries to stay alive at all costs. Approaching those dark creatures, he is close to ending it all. Declaring victory, Chang finishes the job with one last extraordinary strike. At that instant, bright and magical abyssal seeds, extremely powerful, appear. Overjoyed with what they are seeing, our heroes take the moment of peace to celebrate. Ting seems more victorious and excited than ever. Now that they've worked hard for this achievement, something appears to ruin their plans. That undesirable group approaches to try to steal the precious treasures. Sakura knows very well who those individuals are. But Ji gives a slight smile, saying that it's been a while since he ran into the girl. Not understanding that connection very well, Chang asks if the girl really knows that person. After she confirms that he is an acquaintance of her grandfather, Chang realizes that they might be interested in stealing the prize. Before they can say anything, Takedo cries out for battle. But those individuals keep trying to trick our team. Trying to negotiate, Ji speaks softly to the team. He says they can keep the jewels but becomes completely irritated with the situation. Looking at each other in a sign of alert, it seems that our hero has a plan. Pointing at the jewels, Chang says they can take them. Slowly moving his hands, Ting seems to try to give some kind of signal to the team. Both Takedo and Sakura realize that something is happening and stay on high alert. Looking at each other, the rival duo also stays alert because something might happen. Kai starts running toward the abyssal seas before anything happens. However, at that moment, Ji realizes that this seems like some kind of trap. Shouting at his friend, the leader tells Kai to stop immediately. But it was too late, and a terrible explosion occurred at that instant. A glowing incandescent light fills the environment and spreads dust and smoke everywhere. To everyone's surprise, it was that eccentric individual with his little spheres in his hands. Firing more and more power against that group, he continues his attack. The rival group members create some kind of barrier that blocks the immediate attacks. A portal is opened, and the seeds are also nearby. Everyone runs toward that portal to try to find some kind of salvation. Always with his sneaky way, he takes the chance to wave goodbye to the rival group. At that instant, the portal closes, and a strange noise fills the environment. Both the little doll and Ji are completely scared by what just happened in front of them. A sided conversation happens between them as they look for some way to take revenge on that group. Lighting his pipe, the individual tries to give the group some hope as they plan a new attack. Taking a deep breath and looking into the distance, he promises true revenge. Far from there, we see an empty place that looks like some kind of warehouse. At that instant, a bright violet light fills the environment. To everyone's surprise, that is the portal from which our heroes are about to exit. A true celebration of victory begins as everyone celebrates. A real victory party is about to happen because our team deserves it. However, before anything else, Sakura and Takedo complain that Chang hid everything from them. At this moment, it is revealed that it was all part of a plan. However, both he and she are irritated with that situation. Then we see that Xiao is deeply afraid of how things will turn out. Determined to do something, Ting promises revenge. Meanwhile, the leader states that his promise still stands. While the gate remains open, everyone observes the Scorpion Sorceress. Now it's time to distribute the seeds for the war. At this moment, we see that there are 6 different abyssal seeds, each with a specific ability. Before the individual can speak, Chang states that his team has a major priority in this distribution. Reaching his hand over the table, Chang grabs the jewels. Staring at the red seed, everyone is truly amazed. However, maybe at this moment they need to have a very serious conversation because these powers are absolutely gigantic. Hitting the table, the boss asks if this is really serious. Everyone remains surprised by the magic of those jewels, especially the girl. Meanwhile, Takedo celebrates because they are one step closer to becoming even more powerful. But it becomes clear that all that talk is a bit uncomfortable for the leaders. Sometime later inside the room. Meanwhile, Chang remembers an interesting conversation he had with the boss. He also remembers that after that conversation, they finally reached an agreement. Looking at the team, Ting decides to deliver the 6 abyssal jewels to each of the right people. Upon receiving the violet jewel, Xiao thanks him. Everyone present starts speculating who deserves these seeds the most. Soon after, Chang looks firmly at the red jewel, which shines more and more. Smiling, he reveals that he will become even more powerful. At this moment, we realize that the heroes, upon obtaining the seeds, start becoming more and more talented. Seeing his friends transform, Chang becomes increasingly happy with the result. Opening his mouth, he immediately throws the seed inside and is ready to receive power. At this moment, he feels all his wolf power becoming stronger and stronger. However, during the transformation, something seems strange. With eyes wide open, the young man feels that something really weird is happening. Meanwhile, Sakura seems to be trying to recover. A powerful cosmic energy surrounds our heroes. Takedo points at his friend, realizing that he is losing his powers more and more. A slight breath calms the friend a little. However, he becomes increasingly desperate seeing what is happening. Not even Chang believes in the power he is starting to feel because of that seed. New powers are activated, and now Ting is truly more evolved. Our friend really hopes that these powers will be used for good. Even with those powers from the abyssal jewels, he states that in the end, they will still need a lot of luck. Takedo can't take saving the world anymore and just wants to rest. Looking at each other, they suggest taking some time to rest. At that moment, Chang states that the time has come for something very important. Looking firmly at the sunlight, they wait for something to happen. The long-awaited moment has come for them. Out of nowhere, a cosmic energy begins to emerge. It seems that terrible monster has returned. While speaking, it flashes that huge smile of satisfaction. All the humans realize that it is playing with them like they are children's toys. But it's not the time to chat, it's time to listen carefully to what it has to say. Sipping her tea, the little doll warns Ji that the protection period is over. While in the pool, Ji celebrates and hopes it all ends soon. New rules are established by the creature that wants to reorganize the game. Before explaining everything properly, it begins to disappear into absolute nothingness. Takedo smiles upon discovering the new rules of the game. Is a new jewel or abyssal key emerging? It's not the time to create theories, and Chang says it's time to seek energy. They don't need to worry because Ting wants to find a new way to gain energy. It seems the crystals will help Earth's energy recover little by little. Meanwhile, Sakura analyzes that issue very carefully. However, he interrogates the girl to know what she might be thinking. Meanwhile, the Scorpion Sorceress wants to know what these so-called abyssal keys are. It seems that this key is a fundamental element to be able to enter the terrible dungeons. Using this key, they will be able to unlock a new level of supreme power. These keys are divided into 3 stages: ordinary, mysterious, and extraordinary. Takedo interrupts the explanation because he wants to know how they reach the extraordinary level. Before anything else, it is necessary to figure out how they will find them. But Sakura is not satisfied with that conversation and wants to know how to find them quickly. It seems that he has this information and remembers how it happened back in the book's story. Despite being very curious, his main priority is to find those keys. Meanwhile, the little doll runs from one side to the other. Ji asks her to relax because they will be there for quite a while. We also realize that other characters are discussing what happened. Not only that, but they will also do everything to obtain those so-called abyssal keys. Ji is getting crazier in his paranoia. Meanwhile, the little girl keeps sipping her tea. However, we see a terrible explosion somewhere. Chaos spreads as people run from side to side. It seems that a terrible wolf is trying to attack a damsel. Crying for help, she calls out for someone's assistance. Before the creature could finish its attack, we see a bright light appear. It seems someone is casting lightning at the creature. At that moment, we realize that someone is holding a weapon. We still haven't seen who it is, but it seems like some kind of savior. But don't be afraid, it's just the old war buddy Takedo. While the girl runs, he complains that the rude one didn't even thank him for the help. Shang asks his friend to stop joking around and focus on finding the abyssal key. Our friend doesn't stop complaining, and Ting asks him to stop being so pessimistic. Meanwhile, his phone rings and he immediately answers to find out who it is. It seems that we will have good news soon. While the duo tries, it looks like Sakura is close to finding a key. It's time to join forces to finish this abyssal adventure. Meanwhile, we can see the gym. Our team starts approaching the surroundings of the school. In the middle of the court, they realize they are not happy to be there. Holding that powerful key, Sakura asks what to do. Slowly placing the key on the ground, we'll see what happens. Immediately, a cosmic explosion occurs. From there, a fearsome portal with a skull emerges. Shang raises his hand and looks for a way to enter that place. At that moment, the extraordinary journey is activated. Little by little, that gap opens slowly. Immediately, fearsome spirits emerge from there. Of course, at this moment, our dear Takedo already shows his deep terror. It's time for them to believe in themselves. Upon entering the place, they notice a resemblance to some kind of stadium. In fact, it looks more like the Colosseum, and he knows it. A hurricane surrounds the place, and something is about to happen. In the shadows, we see a demonic figure appear. Without delay, we realize that the monster is a minotaur. It's time for our heroes to fight for their lives. Shang confirms that it really is the minotaur. That beast is getting more and more agitated. Unleashing its terrible power, it wants to attack our heroes. Explosions happen everywhere. That creature is really very powerful. Shang leads the team and wants to start doing fight tests. Firing his cosmic beams, the young man charges into battle. Facing the Minotaur, Ting now finds himself in another explosion. To the boys' surprise, the beast's power is truly massive. But our hero won't give up on that battle easily. When he looked, the creature was already lying on the ground. But the Minotaur got up and charged back into combat. As it hit, it jumped to avoid being struck. Conjuring its fearsome magic, it is ready for whatever comes. At this moment, the beast tries to stand up. A deep energy takes over the Minotaur. Shang already suspected that it could have more energy, but he didn't expect this. With its flaming eyes, the beast charges into the fight. These are two opposing forces trying to win. At this moment, the problem is much bigger than before. Ting needs to give his best if he wants that seed for himself. It seems that the perfect time to gain a new ability is coming. Takedo celebrates his friend's efficiency. We see that the Colosseum is living through a true war scenario. At this moment, the beast falls to the ground, and he celebrates even more. But Sakura quickly tells him to calm down and shut his mouth. Embarrassed by his mistake, the young man tries to compose himself. That guy complains at him and doesn't know how to use his abilities. However, as a good leader, Ting tries to calm him down and encourage him even more. It seems that we are experiencing the stages of the abyssal jewels. When they reach the end, peace in the world will be restored. Now that he is motivated, he can move forward happily. Raising his special sword, Chang calls his team. At that moment, the Minotaur moans in pain. A true big screen appears, and they are left completely confused. That screen congratulates them for having defeated the Minotaur. Ting is getting more and more confused with this situation. It seems that they are the first squad to achieve that victory. Takedo makes it clear that precisely because of this, they are not yet classified. However, he starts giving his friend a history lesson. He refutes it because he doesn't understand anything anymore. It's time for them to get a real ranking in this game. Our friend doesn't know how yet, but will do everything to qualify among the best. When the blonde young man realized, a chest appeared right in front of him. There are powerful weapons that can be used. Looking at each other, our heroes wonder if it's magic. Meanwhile, the powerful box starts to open, and from it come wonderful powers. When all the glow fades, we realize it's a powerful weapon. At that moment, Takedo's eyes shine brightly upon seeing what he's looking at. We realize it's a powerful ability for his weapon that now makes him much fiercer. Recharging his energies, the young man jokes that this isn't bad at all. Now he asks to be called the guardian of the two pistols. At that moment, the two girls are gnawing with envy for not having any attributes. At this moment, our leader tries to give some instructions to the two complainers. It seems that now it's time for a new challenge involving the abyssal keys. Something is detected by the game system. A terrible countdown starts rising quickly from 10 to 50 in a matter of seconds. Both Chang and Takedo are surprised by this news, but Ting does everything to listen to the information very carefully. A new kind of arena activation has just been implemented by the system. It immediately leveled up 2 levels and went to level 8. A kind of explosion occurs and a lot of smoke fills the environment. Realizing that an attack will come from there, he calls the attention of the other members. Another terrible explosion happens and it's possible to see the paw of some animal. It seems that this time the challenge involves a fearsome mythological creature. A powerful roar fills the arena, and we see a fierce dog with 3 heads. It could only be the guardian of the gates of hell. With incandescent eyes and flames surrounding it, that beast seems very evil. Ice and fire mixed in a new battle for their lives. Stacker tries to do something, but that attack is much more powerful. Another gigantic explosion happens, and this time Chang's body flies through the air. Our beast seems to drool with so much rage it feels toward the champions. Prepared for combat, the squad organizes itself for a new fight. Meanwhile, this big dog comes toward all of them. Far away, in a place far beyond human comprehension, we can see intergalactic beings. When analyzing life on Earth, they all find it very interesting. Uttering insane words, the yellow creature finds everything funny and gets ready to start the game. However, even these space creatures are capable of entering into conflict. Not understanding each other, a kind of ego fight begins between the beings. Meanwhile, the red being states that he is getting kind of bored with all that small talk. Asking for the fight to continue, he cries out for entertainment. But the main being attacking Earth asks the others not to interfere with anything. With all his audacity, the red being states that there is nothing to be done. A terrible cosmic war seems to be approaching if they continue with this chatter. The time has come for an intervention to make this game even more interesting. However, not understanding that conversation, they try to talk to reach an agreement. Analyzing the current situation, it seems that the time has come for some kind of new glitch to make the game better. Performing his magic, that Supreme Being has a new idea to interfere. By placing a new bug on Earth, it might become even more interesting. We could even set some victories as a way to gain points. But it seems that the other creatures are a bit irritated. Because apparently, even though it's interesting, what they really want is to have fun. Without thinking twice, the big red one casts a supreme magic. A kind of silence reigns in the place, and they become confused. These so-called bugs are a kind of cheat that makes them angry. Returning to the battle site, we realize that the fearsome dog is ready for the attack. A gigantic and powerful magic interferes with the arena. To the sound of a terrible whirlwind, we witness the violet light approaching Earth. Our heroes don't understand how this is happening and are intrigued. Right after, the powerful animal becomes engulfed by a cosmic green light. That magic keeps getting more grandiose and splendid. Immediately, the beast acquires powerful abilities of green magic. To Chang's surprise and despair, he also realizes that his rival is now much more powerful. It seems that the game rules have changed and everything has become much more difficult. Meanwhile, the beings from the other universe watch everything excitedly. New rules will be implanted in the minds of humans immediately. It seems that new fighters and warriors will need to prepare for a new challenge. After an intergalactic invasion, new rules will be implemented in the game. So the video ends here. If you don't want to miss the next part, activate the notification bell, and see you next time on Tob's channel.